flag salute. And Bill, would you like to lead us tonight?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. I have some kind of residual cough, so if I disturb you, remind me to get a cough drop, please. And thank you. Hopefully it's just a leftover from a non-contagious illness a while back. So let's start off with welcome and announcements. We do have a lot of things happening. Are you going to bring those up in your report, or should I make sure we know about them? Wednesday, it is our music concert for our students. Ms. Clardy, with all her classes, will be doing a music presentation with her students. And then and art showcase as well. Then the next item is Monday. Is that the 9th? Nope. The next, do we have anything else coming up?
Oh, we have a lot of things coming up. We have, well, it is currently Classified Employee Appreciation Week, so please make sure to thank all of our classified employees.
That's very important. We want to be sure we do that.
We have our music and art showcase on the 21st. We have a lovely holiday coming up. We have senior night on the 28th. We have afternoon tea with the principals on the 29th. We have our 8th grade field trip on the 30th. We have our coffee chat on the 6th, along with graduation. The 9th is 8th grade promotion, and then the 10th was supposed to be the last day of school, but is now a full day of school because of closures due to inclement weather and power. And then June 11th is our last day of school and field day. And I think that's it.
And we had a wonderful, wonderful prom. So thank you to all the people who helped make that a great success. It sure looked like it was a wonderful prom. I'm sure all the students loved it. I heard they were shy about dancing, but once they got over that, they went to town. Okay, any other announcements from anyone? All right, thank you. Let's look at the agenda. Does anybody have any changes, additions, or corrections to the agenda?
I would like to ask that we move up reports D, the special education presentation by the ESD, since they are kind enough to join us this evening. And we put them as the first report so they can go about their evening.
So move them up to in front of the budget.
Yes, please.
All right, thank you.
Unless Janelle or Jill have an objection to going sooner rather than later. I didn't think so.
All right, thank you. So let's move on to anyone have any other changes, any objections to the change? Agenda set with the one change unless there's an objection. Okay, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Did everyone have an opportunity to review the minutes? I had a comment. I don't know if it's good or not, but I kind of like everything to be self-explanatory. And so on the second page, the first item C, school improvement plan. I'd like to say something to the effect of as required by the state annually. So everyone knows that was a mandatory thing that had to be done. And then under D, item 3, the last sentence should say students take history with a PCIA instructor. So there is no need for the curriculum to cover 8th grade students. Is that accurate to make that change?
Where are we? Yes.
Okay,
So which one was that?
so that's item 3 under D on page 2. It would say at the last sentence, 8th grade students take history with a PCIA instructor. So there is no need for the curriculum to cover 8th grade students. This is a topic about curriculum.
No need.
Yeah.
So need.
Okay.
And then, under item 4, under the same thing, curriculum, it says parents reviewed the curriculum and spoke in favor. I think it might be a good idea to have something there that says the board was also given the opportunity to go to the website and review the curriculum.
So could you say parents and board?
Yeah, and
Yeah,
staff.
you're making it much simpler. Very good idea.
Parent, staff and board.
Thank you.
And also I believe the link is available on the links are all on the agendas too. So it has actually been available to the public as well.
Yeah, the current links are all there. Those are really cool. Yeah, parents and the board, and do you want to add staff?
And staff, yeah, parent, staff,
And board.
yeah, and an entire, the curriculum committee, but I think that's more clear to label it as parent, staff and the board.
Okay, I didn't have any other corrections, I don't think. Uh-oh. Last page, action item B, there should be a T there for budget.
Okay.
And then on the executive session, the last sentence should say, the last line should say, employee for approximately 45 minutes period. At 8:51 PM, the regular meeting resumed with no decisions being made.
No decisions made.
Yeah, say no decisions being made, with no decisions being made. That's all I had. Well, if there's no other corrections or additions, the chair would entertain a motion. Oh, no, we're not gonna vote, sorry. I get all confused. This is part of the consent agenda, so now we're on to AP vouchers. Does anyone have any comments or questions regarding our AP vouchers? It looks like we're doing our last quarter payments for several of our ESD contracts. And then, I probably ask this every year, but our payment to Stevenson High School. Now it says non-high. Why does it say non-high?
So this was a great question. And I'm gonna try to do the answer justice because I just was digging into this myself. For students who are Mill A school district residents for K-8, they become Stevenson High School residents when they reach high school. If Stevenson has a levy, and then the students who are in our K-8 district who go to Stevenson, we actually have to contribute a portion of like a levy payment because they are within their high school district, but not their geographical boundary.
Well, I don't think that's very fair,
I didn't think so either, which is why I dug into it, but that is how it works.
because the levy is paid by taxes by landowners.
Right.
I had to look into it and I will try to get even more details for you and a much better explanation than I can do justice.
They
But-
evidently are just considering our students, their residents, since that's.
Correct. And
Our
because they are,
designated-
because they
our
technically
designated-
are, once
Yeah.
they reach ninth grade,
It
because we
is.
don't have a high school.
Right.
But some of those
They
students
are-
may not be in families that own land. Oh, well,
I will get a more detailed explanation for you, but that I just
Yeah.
discovered that myself not too long ago.
I don't remember that.
I don't think
Before.
I don't know. Yeah, well, we'll have to check it out, because that ends up to be quite a bit. No, not that it's, I don't know. Have we always paid that even before we had PCIA?
I would imagine, yes, because we're
Yeah,
still a
okay.
K-8 district.
Right. Okay, so I do have a comment on page 4, the top one, running start. I just read a bill that says we won't have to be paying for that anymore. But I will have to pull out that bill and send it to you. It
But-
probably won't go effective till next
I
year.
was gonna say, that's probably the case,
Mhm.
paying for it now, but not. in the
We shouldn't
future.
have to pay any tuition for any of our students taking college classes in high school, including Running Start. So you'd want to double check that. I'll see if I can find that bill.
I look forward to reading that article.
And, that's all I had, I think. What'd we build with our Tummalong lumber? Oh, that was only $1. The other big dollar was food service. Oh, yeah, 3 food services added together.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's all I had. Did anyone else have anything on the AP vouchers? There's also a science, ASB science voucher. And a, just unplus payroll, so warrant registered. All right, payroll. What do we have for payroll here? Is there anything in our book? Just the check to Umpqua for handling our payroll for us. Let's see what's in the action folder. The action folder has total payroll for May 23rd in the amount of $116,894.30. And the amount that will go to sort supporting benefits and payroll. This is a check to Umpqua Bank, who takes care of our payroll for us, is $158,060.56. Then we have just our AP vouchers, which we already discussed. Next here. Are there any questions on any of those items that I just read off? Okay, we'll move, open it up for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No. So I did forget to announce at the very beginning that Eric will be late, but he should be here shortly. And Keith is unable to attend tonight. One thing that wasn't listed here in the consent agenda, but which should have been, the minutes from the budget workshop of April 16th. It is in our book. And I just had one correction. It should say, because it is important we record why somebody is absent to make sure it's an excused absence. So it should say that Director Gamer was absent due to illness. Other than that, I have no corrections to that one. Does anyone else? It's in the under consent agenda. It's actually the first page. Okay, if there's no further changes, we can entertain a motion to approve the minutes of April 16th budget workshop.
I'll make that motion.
Moved and seconded to approve the minutes of the April 16th budget workshop. Any further discussions? Eric, did you have a chance to take a look at it?
Yes,
Okay. It's under the consent agenda tab. Or it's not listed on the agenda.
oh, I see.
We kind of stuck it in there. We
Oh,
already,
no, wait. April 16th.
Yeah, the next page.
there it is, right there.
Oh, right, yep.
Yeah.
So we're
Okay, the
approving
next
it
one.
separately because it actually wasn't individually listed on the agenda.
Got it.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Anyone
Aye.
opposed? Okay, motion's approved. So let's go on to public comment. Where's my notebook? So do we have any public comment this evening? There will be another public comment period towards the end of the meeting. We have any public comment right now? Anyone on Zoom? No. Going once, going twice. No public comments. All right, let's go on to a presentation by ESD, Special Education Department, I guess you call it. Thank you for joining us.
So I asked our teammates at the ESD to just give us a short presentation on some important topics around special education. As we're looking forward to next year and planning our supports and digging in deeper to MTSS, the board's understanding of special education will become really important, along with increasing everyone's understanding in the district so that we can make really informed decisions. So thank you guys for being here tonight. Really appreciate it.
Sure, thanks for having us. Kelly, how would do you want me to just share my screen for the presentation that I mailed over? Is that something that would be easiest? I don't know if I have the powers to do such things.
Yes.
Yes, we will get, yeah, that's probably easiest, you know.
Okay,
We'll get you that set up here in just a second.
great. You tell me when you're ready and I'll cue it up on my side.
Or would it be easier to have her just share it directly with you, Jessica?
She can
And
present.
she can just share it right
You can
there,
present.
can't she?
I think she can.
Instead of her face, she'll show her screen.
Does it give you the option now? You know,
I know for sure. Let me, yeah, I think I can. All right, hold on just a sec.
you're our first Zoom presentation this year, so. thank
Wow,
you.
I am delighted to help with that. All right, here we go. Just a sec. Let me get myself all queued up over here. All right, here we go. All right, can you guys see that?
It's coming.
There we go.
There.
All right.
Okay, good. Here we go. All right, hold on a sec. Gotta hit slideshow, but every time I do that, the drop down comes in. So, oh, darn it. Darn Zoom. Just a sec here.
Thank you for making the presentation applicable to some of the policies that we're currently under review as well. I really appreciate the work you've put into this.
Yeah, I wasn't completely, I want to make sure that I'm answering, and now I can't see you guys, just so you know, because it's all I see on my screen. So if you have a question, raise your hand. I won't be able to tell, so feel free to stop me at any time. But Amy Lomax had reached out and was wondering if I would talk a little bit about choice transfers and special education and how that works. So I thought I would go into just, what is a choice transfer? What are the laws around choice transfer? And then how does special ed play into that? So if there's anything else that you want me to address, let me know, but make sure to tell me because I can't see you guys.
No, I appreciate it. Non-resident policy is on the agenda for tonight, so this is very timely.
Okay, good. So let's talk about the conditions for a choice transfer. So I put in, and you guys, Kelly, I will share this presentation with you if you don't have a copy of it already, that you can share out with the board, because I did put in the choice transfer guidance from OSPI for you in this. But basically, the conditions for a choice transfer are that, districts must have a policy for acceptance. It sounds like you guys are working on that later today. Acceptance and rejection of non-resident transfer applications. That is both fair and equitably applied. So we can't discriminate in any means. So that, I think sometimes we get students that come in with IEPs that are requesting a choice transfer, and hopefully this presentation today will clear some of that up for you guys on how that works and what do we need to do. So really what I wanted to focus on is on the denial of a choice transfer. So, all schools in Washington State have choice transfer, which means that, a parent from a neighboring district or a district 45 minutes away, whatever that may be, can ask to choice transfer into your district. And the district then receives that transfer request. The procedures for receiving that transfer request are part of your school policy, right? So that's nothing that the state does. And at the very end of this slideshow, I do reference what the WASDA policy is that you guys are, probably looking at to adopt and fine tune for Mill A. But, every district is supposed to have some policies in place. But the real questions come up around, denying a choice transfer. So I gave the 5 considerations that under law districts can deny non-resident transfer applications, but I want to talk about these in a little bit of detail for you. So the very first condition is acceptance of a non-resident student would result in the district experiencing a financial hardship. This was the one that I think I see most common throughout Gorge districts. So let me give you an example. You have a student who is asking to choice in to Mill A district, and they require a very specialized classroom. They require a life skills type setup, something that you guys don't have available. And in order for you to provide FAPE, free and appropriate public education, which is consistent in what the IEP outlines, you would have to hire another teacher, you would have to hire a para, you might have to do a number of things. You might need some adjustments to, the classroom itself. There could be special equipment that's needed, all of these pieces, which would cause some financial hardship. So that is really the most typical reason that I see districts in the Gorge denying a choice student entrance into their program, is because they don't have a program for the students to attend that already exists, and the district is not under any obligation to create that program for a district or for a student that's choicing in. Now, this would be completely different if the child lived in your district, right? Then we would have to be, okay, we must create the program that is in line with the student's IEP that they're moving in with. We have an obligation to do that for a resident student. We don't have an obligation to do that for a non-resident student. So does that make sense to everybody? And just yell at me if that doesn't.
Very good, thank you.
Okay. So the next thing that you see is around students' disciplinary records. So you can deny a choice to transfer if the student's disciplinary records indicate a history of convictions or offenses for crime, violent or disruptive behavior, or gang membership. So less commonly seen here in the Gorge, but that is a reason why a district could deny a choice transfer. Because you guys, you have the IB program for your high school kids, but for your K through 8, it would be pretty rare that we're seeing somebody who's been convicted of an offense at that age or gang membership. But there could be those outliers that do exist. The next one here, the student has been expelled or suspended from public school for more than 10 consecutive days. So that's what I think is a little misleading about this, is it's like any time in their school career. No, it's really within the year that they're trying to choice in. And this policy was written so a student that was, let's pretend, expelled or removed from Stevenson Carson can't be like, oh, well, I'm in trouble in Stevenson Carson, I'm just going to bop over to Mill A and choice in. That's not how that works. So, any policy allowing for readmission of expelled or suspended students must be applied uniformly to both resident student and non-resident students. So it's not a loophole for students who've been expelled or been removed in a long-term removal to go to a different district in that sense. The next one, enrollment of a child would displace a child who is a resident of the district. So this is what Jeffrey likes to call the inn is full. We have no more space in this program. And so in that case, you wouldn't, let's say that your first grade class is, I'm just making it up, capped at 18 or 19. And let's pretend you have a child who's in first grade who's coming from White Salmon, and that would be your 20th student, but you don't have the capacity anymore to serve that child because the inn is full. So in that case, you do not have to accept the choice transfer for that student. Here's one exception though, except if a child was admitted because they're a child of an employee of the non-resident district. So I think as educators, there are very few perks and bonuses that exist within our systems, and one of them is that we do allow employees to bring their children to the school which the parent is working at as a choice transfer. So we would have to make some space in that case. And then the final one down here, which this doesn't necessarily apply to you all, but it has to do with ALE, all virtual programs. So the state has given this is a new one, this last dot here, a new condition in which a choice transfer can be denied. So if the student has repeatedly failed to comply with requirements for participation, in the online program, then the district has the right to deny the choice transfer and the student needs to go back to their home district to receive their services. And these, by the way, all of these that I've just gone over are for all children. These aren't kids just who have IEPs or students who might have a 504. These are for all kids. All these rules apply to all kids. So we have some districts that are really amping up and trying to provide a number of non-traditional avenues for students to be educated. And one of those happens to be some of these online school programs. So they're really strict about attendance around that. Any questions about any of these?
I have a question.
Sure.
So if you have a parent who comes with a student, let's say, for example, who has a previous expulsion or suspension from another district, what do we tell the parents their options are? I mean, we just tell them no, and where do they go? How do they get help?
So, if it's within two things. So let me address. So you're saying if you have a student that comes to Middle A with a student who's been expelled or has been removed for 10 consecutive days in that particular school year, is that what you mean?
Well, they apply to be to come to school here. They're an out-of-district student with that history.
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah, so
the parents
go
come
ahead.
and talk to us, and they kind of sometimes are just at a wit's end. They don't know where to go.
So these are reasons that a denial of a choice transfer can happen. It doesn't have you can still accept the child, first of all. The discretion of a choice transfer is made by who? It's made by your superintendent, and it's made by the superintendent that's releasing the student from their current district. So these are just reasons that you could deny. But I want to be real clear that, this isn't if the student has ever been expelled or suspended in their lifetime. This is really within that current year. This is a way that the state is saying, hey, you have violated a major school policy an event has occurred that has resulted in pretty severe discipline for a child. And in that case, the child cannot skirt the discipline by choicing into a neighbor district. So I'm going to give you a fairly dramatic example, but let's pretend that, a child over in Trout Lake was expelled for selling Class A drugs on campus, so selling some heroin. And they are now on removal for that. They are expelled for that. They can't, during that expulsion period, just say, well, I'll just go to Mill A then. That's not how that works. And remember that when children are expelled or they're on long-term removals, it is still the responsibility of the home district to provide services to that student. It just may not happen on campus. So they still are required anything after 5 days, really. The districts are required to make sure that there is somebody who is touching base with the student, that the student is getting their coursework, that they are not to fall behind or become credit deficient because of the discipline, and they continue to receive their educational services through the disciplinary period that was provided to them by their administration. Does that help?
It sure does. Thank you.
You
So
bet.
these are the reasons you can deny. Let's say there's 4 or 5 applicants for one spot, or 4 students who would like to get a spot, and you only have one spot. What criteria can you use to select?
Ooh, you better be real careful about that.
Is it just-
So we have to be careful that we're not ever found to be discriminating in any way. So my advice to you guys, and this is a question for your lawyer, but if that were to happen, the advice that I would give is that you come up with some kind of equitable way for the students. So, I hate to sound like an operator here, but in the order they are received,
That's what
you
we
could
do.
also do a lottery. There are a couple of things that I think you could do that would be fair and equitable to anybody that applied.
Do you prefer students who have an older sibling who are in this already attending?
Yeah, if you have students that are all like you have an older student that say or a younger student that you've already choiced in, I think you could talk about that. We don't like to separate students, right? But still, I think I'd be careful about that.
So we would prefer, like, it'd be a preferred spot if you already have a sibling who's attending. Or something,
If
and it's
that
also
is-
preferred if you're coming back. Excuse me.
If I actually don't think that's unreasonable. However, if you guys are going to apply that, let's say, siblings have preference, that needs to be really well outlined in the policy and the procedures in which you're adopting tonight. I would spell that out.
So one thing that you mentioned, I think in the very beginning is that and I think what we do is we treat the students of our staff members, teachers and staff who are employed here. We treat those students as in district. If I
Yeah.
read the policy right, it says they need to be employed full-time. Is that mandatory? We can accept part-time employees, kids as well?
I cannot advise you on that. I'm not aware of it.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, sorry. That again, remember that I'm your favorite special ed director. So these processes are for gen ed students, for all students. So some of these conditions, I think if you're not sure, it's a great time to consult with your school lawyer and ask, what their advice would be on that.
And so if the student is a special ed student
Mm-hmm.
and they're out of district,
Mm-hmm.
or their resources are fully covered by ESD, is that not correct?
Yeah, they are, provided your district has the resources available. I think the one that I see most often is that, you have a child who's trying to choice into a district where the program doesn't exist for that child. Or, for example, with Mill A, this is a prime example. Sometimes I see students who who are wanting to choice in that need really a pretty profound amount of services. So they have a restricted LRE setting. It may be in a life skills room where they're not mainstreaming with their peers as often as typically developing peer would, or they may require special equipment in order to do that. Or what is most often the case, they have such a profound amount of teacher minutes that your district doesn't have that program available to the student. And you are not under any obligation to create that program for that student.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions on this?
But we are if it's an in-district student. If it's an
Yes.
in-district
You are
student,
if it's an in-district
we
student.
have to
Yep.
solve the problem, right?
Yeah.
And let's talk about that for a sec. So let's say we do have a really profounded impacted student that moves into Mill A, and fiscally we can't, it doesn't make sense to create a program for one child. And we also oftentimes can't find the para supports or the nursing supports or, whatever those supports may be for that child. If that child is in district and has an IEP that Mill A cannot implement as written, do you know what Mill A does in that occasion?
Goes to you.
That's right. That's right. They talk to me or they talk to Jill, your director, and it becomes up to us to find a program that can meet that child's needs. So that may mean we have an inter-district transfer to another local district that has a program that is able to meet the student's needs. Great question. Any other questions?
I think that's good on that subject.
Okay. One of the things that I put in here, because this is so often overlooked, and transportation is one of my most favorite topics. So when we have a student that choice transfers in from a local district, and if that IEP indicates has specialized transportation, the district who is accepting the choice transfer is obligated to provide that. And I bring this up for a very specific reason. Transportation is not a service covered by special ed, right? Transportation is available to all students. So this is where districts can incur additional costs by accepting students into their district if they're not very thoughtful in reading the IEP. Because if that IEP indicates that they require specialized transportation in their IEP itself, the district then is obligated to provide a small bus. And so let's play this out. We have a student, let's pretend that's over in, we'll stick with Trout Lake. We've got a lovely student in Trout Lake. They want a choice into Mill A. Mill A looks at the IEP and says, great, no problem, except the IEP has specialized transportation on it. So transportation is always a district cost. It's not a special ed program cost. So the district itself must be aware that they're going to have to send a bus to Trout Lake to get the student or pay the parent in lieu of. So I put this in here specifically because I think this is one that often confuses people or it just gets overlooked and then districts end up in kind of a rough spot and trying to add another route to a very random location, obviously.
So is there any situation in which ESD provides transportation?
Yes, if Mill A, and I don't know if Mill A is in the ESD co-op, but that's not part of special ed. It's an ESD co-op. So remember the ESD is, 700 programs. Special ed is one program. Transportation is one program. Early childhood is one program. So if there were a child that were to move to, let's go back to Trout Lake. Well, actually, let me really think about this. If the child were in Trout Lake, would the ESD co-op pick up that child? I don't know if they would. I'm
My
not sure
answer
that
is
fits under the
no.
co-op.
I think we have this scenario in White Salmon and Trout Lake
Oh,
is transporting because we placed a student outside of Trout Lake. So they must not be part of the co-op.
Well, the placement, Jill, is different. That's an inter-district transfer. That's not a choice transfer. Different
Oh, right.
process.
Well, but I
Right.
think, yeah, and we have a similar situation elsewhere though, and the ESD is transporting, and in this case, they are not. So I'm assuming it's because they're not part of the co-op, but maybe I'm wrong. It could be, it's complicated, right?
Yeah.
We are, and
So
we are.
I do think that the ESD co-op would probably would help support Mill A in bringing that child in as specialized transportation. I do think that's within the scope of the ESD co-op services, but there has to be an agreement ahead of time with the ESD co-op itself. That's outside of special ed.
So if you've accepted a student in and you become obligated for their transportation,
Yeah.
if they move, are you obligated wherever they move to? You just have to
No,
provide.
because if they move, well, that's a good question. So let's unpack that a little bit. So if they move, like the kid just moves to Oregon, then the child becomes a resident of another district, right?
Sure. The child moves to Goldendale. It's still.
Yeah, let's say the student moves to Goldendale, exactly.
And now
So
they're-
now they would have, well, it would be a long bus ride, but also remember the superintendent that released that student, the Trout Lake superintendent who released the kid to go to Mill A. Now it has to be the Goldendale superintendent that releases the student to go to Mill A. And I think at that point you would need to relook at your choice transfer and whether that was in the best interest of the child. It makes me think I had a another event in which would apply to this, which is around McKinney-Vento. It's a very different thing if a child moves versus a child loses their housing, right? So if the child loses their housing, you were the choice district, yes, you probably would be on the hook for providing transportation for that student until the law used to say it used to be only for the school year, but they've revised that and said until permanent housing can be found. So they could continue under that choice transfer.
And Janelle, we are part of the Specialized Transportation Services Cooperative.
Oh,
here,
good.
So, yeah.
Great. Thank you. Yeah, I wasn't sure if you were or not. Any other questions? This is where stuff gets kind of tricky. Any other questions about this?
Nope, I think we're good on that.
Okay, thanks. I know I can't see any of you guys, so I'm like, are they nodding? I'm not sure. All right. The last thing that I put in here are resources and references. So here are the RCWs that addresses the expectation of the resident district, those of the non-resident district. A parent has a right to appeal the denied request. That's important to understand what that process is. And then I do put a little bullet in here as to what the model policy is for you for WASDA.
Well, I have one more question.
Sure.
So the high school, which is a co-op of K through 8 districts, is there any differences on how the rules apply in that situation versus the K through 8 district itself?
Say that one more time. I'm not sure I get it.
So our high school, we are a K through 8 district.
Right.
High school is one of the innovation academies in the state, one of two, which is a co-op of K through 8 districts. Are rules any different for the high school versus the elementary school on all the stuff we've been talking about? Because of
I
that
don't know
difference?
I'm not sure whether they are or not, because I don't know what the application process is for your IB program.
I see.
So all of our students at PCIA are considered choice transfer students.
They're
So
all choice transfer. Yeah. Okay.
we are a student who resides in Mill A is a K-8 resident student, but when they reach 9th grade, they are a resident student of Stevenson. So they have to choice transfer into PCIA.
So we had one of our board members join us, so I'm just gonna ask him if he has any questions. We have special guests from ESD here talking to us about special ed situations, and one of the first areas she covered is out of district students who come in and situations we might face with out of district students coming in the special ed relationship. And then we talked about, what else did we talk about? And then we got into transportation, and if you have any questions along that, out of district students and choice transfer.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
All right,
Janelle, thank you. Look, when you get a chance, if you could send the presentation to me, I would appreciate it.
Yep, you bet. I think my best piece of advice to you all, if you're not sure as to whether you can deny that choice transfer or not, you need to consult with your lawyer. So, you know, we really should be accepting the majority of choice transfers, with the exception of we don't have a program, we don't have the staffing, or the inn is full, right? Or you've got these kids coming in with profound disciplinary histories. So I think if there's any question, you know, it's always good to consult with your legal team and to help you with that.
Thank you
That's it.
so much. We really appreciate you taking time out of your evening and putting this together for us. It's been
Oh,
very
no.
informative.
No problem, Kelly. I'll send it to you right now so you've got it in your email, okay?
And thank you, Jill, for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you. All right,
Bye, everybody. Have a great night.
You too.
Okay, so now I have a question. No, and actually, I'm sure you guys can answer. What is the choice transfer? What is that, in district? out of
It's for
district?
students who are non-residents of the district.
So
that want
Washington
to
State is a
school.
choice transfer state, so
Okay.
any student can ask to go to a different district than the one in which they live.
And the home
Okay.
district needs to approve releasing them,
Yeah,
and then we would have to approve accepting them.
simple question.
And we'll be
Not all
reviewing,
states are choice transfer.
Oregon doesn't have this. And we'll be reviewing the acceptance of non-resident student policy here in just a little bit.
Okay.
Okay. All right, thank you. Let's make sure we keep our eye out in case somebody raises their hand out there. We'll move on to the budget report.
I don't know.
So
Is it?
there has not been a significant change
Okay.
since our last budget workshop meeting.
And what are we? 67% or something to that effect for the year?
Yeah, we're
Who's
at,
a math person?
oh, where are we at for the year?
The year.
Goodness.
That's okay.
Diane was always faster at this than me. What percentage of the year are we at?
We're 8/12.
Yeah.
No,
How many?
we're at
67%.
67%. Yeah, I thought it was close to that.
Okay, wouldn't that be 2/3?
Yes.
Pretty much, yep.
Pretty much that.
Wait a find the lowest common denominator.
Well, I mean,
Good job.
yeah, I've just never heard of 8/12.
Well,
I didn't
there
know.
are
They're
12
12
months in a
Oh,
year.
yeah,
And so we're the 8th, yeah, we're the 8th.
We're 16/24s.
Let's keep it
there
going.
we go.
Or we can go on.
Or-
So one thing I will say that it's not on our budget, but last meeting, we discussed that we had heard that, federal funds in lieu of property taxes may be deducted from our state allocation next year. Well, number one, there is no federal legislation giving us any money this coming year, but if it should go through, and two, it seems extremely inappropriate because there's a very, a small number of school districts in the state that get that money in lieu of property taxes, and all the other districts get the property tax money, so we should too. But anyway, I have sent a request to Kevin Waters, our representative, to look into that because it's a major issue for Stevenson and Skamania County, let alone for us. So more for them than for us, because if we happen to get any of that money, that's what we put into our capital fund for major school things that we
Oh,
need.
and the reason that we have to pay for capital projects.
That's right, we have to
Where
pay
we don't
100% for it.
We
That's
don't,
right.
yeah, not like other districts.
Because of.
Because of the
Yeah.
availability.
I just can't believe that that's the case. However,
I
I
don't
did
either.
Google and I found a accounting manual from 2020, 22 or 23 that did have that phrase in there that federal money received in lieu of property taxes would be deducted from our allotment. But they have never done that. And I don't see how they could possibly get away with, that's not a law, it's in the accounting manual, so we'll
And it just
continue to.
doesn't seem, yeah. it
Yeah,
doesn't seem
but if you
fair.
happen to run into Kevin Waters or anybody else, ask him that question. What is this ridiculous idea of taking
Yeah.
money away? So. Anyway, other than that, the budget percentage wise looks like we're not going in the hole anywhere.
No.
All right, next on the agenda is our needs survey. That's pretty exciting.
Do you have the link, Jessica? Thank you. So recently we conducted a district-wide needs survey. It went to staff, parent, guardians, and community members. This is not the only survey that we have scheduled for this year, but it's the first major one that we've done. I'm not gonna read every slide verbatim because that would be really boring, but I'll just kind of give you an overview. So we wanted to make sure that we were reaching out to stakeholders and gathering data from a variety of places to help guide the development of targeted strategies and support our school improvement plan and other initiatives that are coming up. So this survey was sent out via email and available on the app. It was available for 2 weeks and we got 35 responses. It was, as you can see, this, I'm sorry, these are always so small once they get up there, they seem so big. Of the respondents, 60% identified themselves as a parent or guardian, just over 34% as staff, almost 3% as both parent, guardian, and staff, and almost 3% as parent, guardian, staff, and community member. So a pretty good mix of parents and staff members for the responses. So then it got to be quite a bit of variation in the responses. And so the next question was, who do you feel is most responsible for supporting students? And you can see that the major, the bulk of the responses was parents at 23 or teachers. And then the smaller ones are some variation of a combination of students, parents, and teachers themselves. So parents and staff feel very responsible for supporting student success. And so do teachers. So it's definitely a partnership between home and school. Student engagement. So we asked how engaged students are in day-to-day learning on a scale of 1 to 5. The majority of the responses were 4, which is pretty good, with quite a bit of 5s and no 1s and only 1, 2. So the vast majority of respondents feel that our students are engaged in their learning. How well does the school communicate important information? This one definitely was a little bit more widespread, but still trended towards the positive, with the highest number being 4s, 3s and 5s being relatively even, 1, 1 again, and a few more 2s on this one. So it identified an area that we can continue to make improvements in finding the variety of ways people prefer to get their information. We also wanted to know if people were feeling like students were prepared for state testing, especially as the end of the year was coming. And state testing can be pretty intimidating, but the results on this look really good, with Threes being the majority, but the trend is, 3 and above with only 1, 2 and no 1. So that implies that our academic program is prepping students for those summative assessments that they're required to take. This is a really important metric because we've talked about attendance initiatives. How important do you feel attendance is for academic growth? And it clearly skews to the positive end with no score below a 3 and only 2 3s out of 35. So attendance is seen as a highly important thing towards academic growth.
I'm not sure how you read that second shot.
With the dots,
Yeah.
each dot represents a response. So we can see like if the 5 line has on here, the 5 line, and the plot itself kind of cuts off when they're formed because there's nothing above a 5. But each one of these dots is a response out of the 35. So only 2 people gave this question a 3.
Okay, thank you.
What are the biggest challenges affecting student attendance? Because we know student attendance is so important. The vast majority said it was illness. And again, they could click multiple areas. So illness
The third
and
one, motivation.
yeah,
Okay.
motivation. Yeah, so illness, mental health, anxiety, and motivation are the top 4. And then school climate was only had 7 responses. And transportation had only 4. So we can see that it's tending towards external factors versus the school climate itself. But that also indicates that we may need to do more supports around mental health and anxiety for our students, since those are becoming barriers to attendance.
So is the plan for the future to research that and see what we can do? I mean,
We're
what can we do?
really focusing on using trauma-informed practices school-wide and implementing more of that into our instruction, into our behavior supports, utilizing it through our MTSS framework and things like that, continuing professional development on what trauma-informed really can look like. And that will help with mental health and anxiety.
So that would be more training for teachers and staff?
Training and coaching and more work on during the MTSS process when teachers are bringing students for individual problem solving, utilizing different types of supports and giving teachers on the ground practice of things like that.
Would that be a year or 2 or a 3-year project?
I don't know
Or
if
is
it's
it
ever
always
gonna end. It's
ongoing?
always ongoing.
Always
Yeah.
ongoing.
So we're
okay.
always gonna wanna put more tools in our toolbox for being trauma informed and
Yeah,
supporting
because
students.
that's real telling.
Yeah.
That's real sad.
This is which subjects need the most improvement across the board. It's fairly mixed with reading, math, science, social studies, writing. The social emotional was a little bit lower. And then the rest were quite low, but I think math stands out this year, especially because we're piloting a new program, and then a change in instruction, which can cause some frustration, but I'm confident that when we look at the end of the year data, we will see that our math instruction supported significant growth. But in a year of change, when we're talking about instruction happening in a different way, it can cause a lot of frustration along the route. So we'll continue to look at best practices here as well. Okay. This question asked about if people feel that students have access to the support they need, academic, emotional, and behavioral supports. And so also skewed more towards the positive, with the majority of the responses being 4s and 5s, and then 3s, and then just a couple of 2s and 1s.
it's late for me to ask this, but what did we have, like, were there words along each of the numbers? Was three?
It was, I can pull up the actual survey and let you see.
Was three neutral or three?
It was not quite that specific. It was kind of a, like on a scale of 1 to 5.
Just rank it 1 to 5.
Yeah. There, do you remember the exact language? I'll just pull it up, but I don't remember exactly how we worded it. But I can have it here by the time we finish. Pretty close to that.
I mean, sometimes three is just neutral, sometimes three is meets expectations. It's kind of like,
If it just says rank between 1 and 5, you have to interpret it.
yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
It said 1 not important, 5 extremely important, with nothing, or like strongly disagree, strongly agree, but there would be
Okay.
nothing for 3 itself.
I see.
And then what would we like to see at Mill A to help student academic growth? Tutoring and more intervention programs, more family involvement, and then mental health or wellness support are clear front runners. In a district without a counselor, it's not really that surprising that mental health issues keep coming up over and over. But we will continue to do as much as we can with the resources that we have. And then our intervention programs, this year was a lot of work was put into reading intervention and getting a solid MTSS framework, a tier 2 for reading happening. And so we'll just continue to make that program more robust and add in other subjects as possible, which we have some plans to do next year, and broaden where we're getting intervention supports with a little bit more focus on some of our upper grades. So overall, how do you feel the school year went? Again, skewed towards the positive, 4s, 5s, and 3s, no 1s at all. So tells us that we're trending in the right direction and that we had a fairly positive year based on this survey result. And then I believe we can just, I've pretty much captured all of this, but you guys do have access to this slide deck. The year has had challenges, but it's very optimistic with the changes and hope for a smoother year next year, or some of the comments that we got. There was questions looking for clear communication on policy changes. So we've implemented adding policy changes to our internal newsletter because they are available here at the board. So we're trying to find ways to make that more thoughtful. Another comment, impact and transition moving in the right direction, engagement and student challenges. Talked to most of the comments noted attendance and motivation very widely. And again, spoke to the need of more support for anxiety and illness.
Who all did you ask these questions?
It was available to parents,
Yeah.
staff, community members.
Not the kids.
No, not like the K kids, no. But I mean, a high schooler could have gotten a hold of it for sure.
Yeah.
And then there was some frustration around discipline, which we've been bringing that policy up for review and working more with staff and parents as well. And then I like the last one, emphasize the importance of learning from history to avoid repeating mistakes. So just always moving forward. So our next step are we're going to continue seeking feedback through our coffee chats and tea talks. We've been holding policy roundtables with staff and stakeholders, and we'll continue to look for other ways to have community forums. We're going to align our budget with the identified priorities and use this information to create our school improvement plan. And then I just threw in a few of my favorite quotes. So this is available for you via the board agenda, so you'll be able to see the whole slide deck and read through the comments in more detail. Any questions on the needs survey.
Okay, so you're going to provide us with a copy of that
That,
presentation?
yeah, that presentation is linked on the board agenda.
But if we wanted a printed copy.
I can print you one. I will print one for you. Would anyone
I
else like
think
a
that-
printed copy?
For the board, because today we'll be doing the superintendent evaluation and we'll be in the last step. Part of that will be reviewing progress towards the goals of Kelly's goals. And so this information here is not only important to Kelly, but important to the board, because I'm sure that she will integrate those into the goals that she will be writing for us for next year. And there's probably information beyond that that can be obtained about how are things changing. I could say in the world, but in the region, as far as needs of students and opportunities for addressing these needs that we're seeing along the lines of mental health, family involvement, and tutoring are, there, maybe it's a different viewpoint or different than what we've had in the past as far as needs for our students. So we'll want to keep the results of this at our fingertips.
So did I just finish my part of the report for her, like way too early or?
Pardon?
So I've already filled out that whole booklet and I turned it in, so.
Yep, and I
So
have it
I
all
just did it
out
way
on
too fast
chart.
then.
I have it all on a chart. I have one
Okay.
more person's input that I'll add to the chart, but I've got that all
Yeah.
done.
Okay.
This will be for the next set of goals, not these
Okay.
goals. Okay, on the agenda, anything else, Kelly? Superintendent report?
Yeah, you guys get to listen to me talk more. I did meet with Kristen on the 12th, and to talk about, see how much more progress we could make on next year's budget. We still don't have a signed budget from the governor, nor do we have all of our ESD contract costs for next year. So I really don't have any significant new information for the 25-26 budget. So later this evening, we will need to pick a June workshop date. Sometime in the first 2 weeks, so it is before the June board meeting.
So I think that's on the bottom of our agenda, is to set a workshop for budget purposes. And so we'll do that at the end of the meeting here. I don't know how fast they're gonna get anything done.
I also completed my fall coursework towards my doctorate degree, so I do have a tuition reimbursement form to submit to the board. As is in my contract and as standard practice for what we've done with in the past.
Is that under the action items?
I don't know, did we write anything on the action items? We need to add it, I hope so.
It's not.
It's not. Also, we need to add something for this next point as well. Our Empress account is woefully under where it should be. Right now, it only has $260 in it, and it is supposed to be standing at near 1,000. This became problematic not that long ago when we had our water bill show up very late. There were some issues with the mail and just the timing of AP. Had that account had enough money in it, we could have handled it much more smoothly. So I spoke with Kristen and talked to her about it and just kind of got a better understanding of the process. And her recommendation was to just ask the board to replenish the Empress account up to the $1,000 threshold, so that when we have these very small urgent needs, we can handle it in between board meetings and don't end up paying something late or needing to call an emergency meeting for a small dollar amount.
Is that normal? Is that normal?
Quite normal.
what she was explaining, paying a bill in between board meetings so we don't stack up late fees.
It would be a one-off. It wouldn't be a common,
No, it's not very common. I don't,
but that is what the Empress account is intended to do, is for,
but yeah,
for situations like,
it's not a bad idea to do this.
So you need so at the end, under action items, you need an approval to move
Just
what,
increase,
increase
$800?
the
increase the.
Empress account to 1,000.
Okay,
Are you saying Empress?
IMPRESS.
Impress.
like
okay.
princess, but not.
No, with an I.
Is my
Impress.
Wisconsin coming out? I'm a little tired. You should see me try to teach phonics. It's awesome. And then, State Superintendent Chris Reichdell put out, a lot of information about where they think the budget is gonna go. In the interest of time, I'm gonna hold off on any of his, comments because they aren't official yet, and I'll share that once the budget is actually signed. I also want to make sure that everyone is aware that we received the Washington State Recognized School Award for the 23-24 school year. We were recognized for growth for all students and growth for students in one or more racial or ethnic groups. So nice job to our staff last year in making sure that our state test scores went up, which is really an awesome achievement.
I think that achievement is because we didn't close down COVID. That was the big
Probably. a lot
big
of it, yeah.
thing, is that our students were able to continue to learn. And so they didn't fall behind as far as students in many, many other districts.
And then the last thing is later tonight, we're gonna be talking about some curriculum adoptions. And I just wanted to make sure the board was aware that, the curriculums being presented were all reviewed by multiple stakeholders, and or are things that teachers are currently using that they would like to continue using in an official capacity. We looked at TCI history last board meeting, and then there were links to EB academics, iReady reading, ECRI, which is enhanced core reading instruction, and read theory on this month's agenda. And so I'll be happy to entertain any questions about any of those. But that is pretty much it for my report for tonight.
So when we say curriculum was reviewed and you're recommending reduction, that's a curriculum committee, right?
Yes, and it varies who is on the committee based on what the curriculum is, but it involves classroom teachers, paraeducators, community members. Amy and I are very involved. Several of these are things that are currently being either piloted or trialed, or things that teachers have used, but it hasn't been officially adopted. So for example, like Read Theory is our program that we're currently using for Tier 2 reading intervention. So several of our paraeducators and regularly run those groups, and all of them have had exposure to it and have given positive feedback on it, along with the teachers, and the data is there to support that it's working.
Well, I appreciate the fact that you assemble the key stakeholders and you have these committees, so that I think that gives the board, me as a board member, a lot of confidence.
I can tell you the reading one was months and months and months of work, looking at 6 different reading curriculums. And we narrowed it down to 2 finalists, and then had all K-8 teachers and paras review the options.
So which one is that?
iReady reading,
Oh, the iReady.
yeah.
I tell you, when I click on these, it's just amazing. I just look at the first page and go, holy cow.
They're all pretty intense. Yeah. And EB academics, we have someone here who is currently piloting her. So if you have questions later, we might even be able to convince her to answer them for you. And that is the conclusion of my.
So on the curriculum subjects, if there is one that we will be adopting tonight, and that's the social studies one, which isn't listed here.
The TCI history.
The history, right?
Yeah.
It's a
Oh, there it is, right at the
Yes,
top.
it is.
Yeah, so that's the one, if you have any questions or anything that we should make sure those questions get asked and discussed.
Are we, it says review and adoption, are we doing that now?
It's under action items.
Oh, it's,
It's an action item, we can,
got
right
it.
now, it's
got it.
it's on the agenda to discuss curriculum, but that's the key one to discuss if people have questions. And that's the one that was on the agenda last week that we discussed, and I got to go in and look at stuff.
I would not be opposed to you, adopting more than just that one this evening, if you feel confident. It is definitely a budget item the more we know about what we'll be purchasing for curriculum, the better. But I also understand if you want another month to review.
So EB academics, what's that?
Can I get, would you speak to?
EB Academics is a large program for English.
Oh,
and
English,
literature.
okay.
And Ms. Talbot is using the EB writing portion, especially for her students. And I've been piloting it with the 5th graders, so they're prepared for 6th grade. And we started it 4 weeks ago, and it is the best way to explain how to write a paragraph and how to understand, how to interpret literature and then respond to it. And today was amazing. They know how to do an introductory paragraph, a body paragraph, tags, claims, evidence, and justification. And it's because of how well this program has laid it out in the last week.
Wow.
I heard one of my students say, "Go, this is so easy." That's the goal.
Yes,
And it is an amazing program. That's how I can quote her saying it's the best writing program I've seen in all of my teaching history. And so it's amazing. I would love my 4th and 3rd graders to see it. I think they would
so
as well grow.
when I click on these, they're so visual. Do we have students that the visual is an issue, or that's not too bright, not too colorful, not too exciting, not too? Nope, they love it, huh? Okay, all right, that's good. How about the iReady reading? Have you tried that?
We have
Last year I did iReady reading and I loved it. And I think it would pair really well with our iReady math that we have. So yeah, I think that it's a really nice, well laid out program, a nice scope and sequence that you can look at and know where you're going and where you've been and what are the important pieces. It's probably better than the Wonders program that I took out of the garbage can in Lyle.
So the iReady math starts with 2nd grade, but the iReady reading starts with kindergarten?
iReady math is K8. The diagnostic can be done K12 on the math. The iReady reading would be K5.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so when we did the curriculum review with the classroom teachers, Ms. B was heavily in favor of iReady reading, and as we know, she will be the only returning K5 teacher, so I think that should carry a lot of weight. It also will help us align our diagnostic data so that teachers will be able to use the same report for both reading and math. Students will be receiving their individualized instruction in a familiar way, as opposed to having 2 different programs to get used to. Both the reading and math use the same little, cartoon character guys in their online videos. So when students are doing that individualized component, it will be very familiar. The diagnostics are set up in a very similar way. The data reports are incredible. We'd really be able to use the data to dig in deep and inform our instruction. And then we are only having to really study one format.
So the diagnostics, they're not really tests. The kids don't know that we're tracking what they do.
They're administered 3 times a year.
Oh, okay.
And we tell them this is a test that helps us figure out what you don't know. Because it is adaptive. So if they get a question right, it'll give them another question at that level. 2 correct, it'll increase the difficulty. When they get 1 wrong, it'll hold at that difficulty. If they get 2 wrong at that level, it will decrease. And it will just ebb and flow through the different domains until students have satisfied all of the different domains in both reading and math.
So help me out, Doug. It's been a long time since I never had kindergarten, you know. So these little kids, are they starting out reading on their Chromebooks or iPads, or how are they learning phonics and
Oh,
one equals two?
So there is an online component, but the instruction itself is pencil and paper.
Okay.
Yeah, so the kindergarten book literally has a little train with the alphabet and like it'll have A, and it'll have AB. And eventually they have the whole train and like the T is in bold, and so that means we're studying the letter T that week. And then it has embedded texts with high frequency and decodable words as it progresses through. So they are following a text, but then there is an additional component that is online that gives them something that's more personalized based on how they do on the diagnostic.
So our students, you know, it used to be you had a keyboarding class. I'm
I took
sorry.
that.
So our students don't need a keyboarding class because they're doing it from kindergarten. Is that right?
Right now, our students are really learning how to type starting in third grade. A lot of the other stuff is more like app-based and point and click and selecting
Okay,
multiple choice,
yeah,
but
okay.
I mean, ideally, it would be great if we could get keyboards all the way down through the primary elementary grades, but they won't need it for this particular program. And we have the Chromebooks that we adopted for 3-5 already.
Okay, so does anybody else have questions about our new curriculum? How our kids are learning with our testing that we've been doing with this curriculum?
So iReady is K-5 and the EB Academics is 5-8. So it kind of feeds into.
Yes, and EB Academics is actually piloting 3-4 next year.
Oh.
So EB Academics will pick up that writing component. And that will allow us to, so Ready is very much a menu. iReady from Curriculum Associates, it's very much a menu of things that you can pick and choose. And they have a writing curriculum and they have a phonics intervention and things like that. And so what we're really looking to do is to adopt the core English language arts, the reading from iReady, and then supplement the output, the writing with EB Academics in 3-4, because in K2, the comprehension part of the reading curriculum embeds enough writing that students are getting writing practice right in the workbook. They're doing their graphic organizers, they're having to answer short answer questions. Second graders are writing, paragraphs in response to literature and things like that. But when we hit third grade, where you are supposed to be moving from learning to read to reading to learn, then we really need to step up that writing into more paragraphs, building into essays. And so having a targeted curriculum for that, and they work really well together. The two curriculums will work really well together.
So if we approved all of this curriculum endeavor here that you have been piloting and trying and is getting such good results, do you have already in our budget any initial purchase costs as well as the annual costs that might be needed either for training or application updates and things like that?
Yep. I've been working with Kristen. I told her what my dream wish list was, and she said that that on curriculum in our budget is absolutely reasonable and doable. And that includes adopting an entire library of books for K-1-2, which is a one-time cost.
And if we adopt this program, these programs, are teachers gonna go, oh, finally, we know where we're going?
So, yes, I can tell you that our middle school teacher is the one who researched and found TCI history. She is currently using EB Academics. She is the teacher who brought the pilot of iWriting Math to you.
I remember that.
And those are the ones that she would be impacted by. Our amazing intermediate elementary teacher is familiar with iReady Reading. and read theory as well. And you've seen some pretty good results from read theory, Ms. B.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing.
Can you speak to that really quick?
Yeah, so, my kids go out with, his family, and, it's an amazing program that I just recently saw their growth, and, they're doing it for 20 minutes, 4 days a week. And their reading and comprehension is the focus, fluency and comprehension. So they're reading passages and they're answering questions. And they're able to navigate and see how they're doing, and if they really understood it, or do I need to go back and read it? And the improvement it's profound. I mean, it's amazing how just by this program, 20 minutes, 4 times a week is really teaching them how to read a passage and think about it, understand it, to answer the questions.
And that's read theory.
That's a read theory that they're doing in a title group setting.
And what's the ECRI?
The,
Oh,
ECRI,
ECRI is amazing. I love ECRI. I taught that in first grade for 2 years. It is amazing. ECRI, if you want to learn to read, you need ECRI.
Mhm.
It's the most amazing program for 8 minutes and you'll know how to read.
it's,
How can
yeah.
people learn things so fast?
It is
It's
amazing.
ECRI, so I wrote my entire master's research, project and thesis around ECRI. I spent an entire year, creating alignment between core, instruction, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, through the ECRI program, and just had phenomenal results. It was my go-to as a reading specialist. I introduced it to Katie and Erica, in our K2 class, and just kind of showed them how it would work. They're both very excited. It's an opportunity for students to, use their voice for 8 to 15 minutes, almost nonstop, because it's a direct instruction where the teacher will put up like a slide, and then give directions and then nonverbal cues. So for like, one example would be like letter sounds. They would see a matrix with about 25 letter sounds, 5 rows of 5. The teacher would say, okay, get ready, sound, and then they would touch the letter. And then they would stop talking, but point to the next letter and then slide their finger under it. So it takes a little bit of setup in the beginning of the year for students to learn the routine. But once they get it, the program moves very quickly and every student is responding. So your students who need a little bit of support are just a quarter of a second behind, but they're seeing it and they're saying it and they're seeing it and they're saying it, and it kind of spirals and everybody gets a chance to participate. And then when done well, the teacher will finish the slide and identify the students who are maybe a fraction of a second behind, and then give those reading rock stars an individual turn so that they can get another at bat at that. And this entire program takes, by second grade, which goes all the way through multisyllabic words, it's only 15 minutes of your day.
And so it's K through 2?
It's K through 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've used it in higher grades as an intervention tool, especially in a school where they did it K through 2, because they love it so much. It was one of the biggest complaints about moving to 3rd grade where I worked before, was that they didn't get
There
to
you
start
go.
their day with ECRI.
They're very unhappy about losing it.
If you
So,
ever want to see embarrassing videos, I have a few.
Yeah.
Myself trying to do it, getting it down, but it is a really amazing, every child enjoys.
it's a game changer and everyone gets to talk. All the students get to talk and they love that. Yeah.
And so budget wise, what are we looking at?
11,480 if we do all of this.
For A through E.
Mhm.
And
Including the one-time purchase of a full set of books for K2.
so what's the ongoing cost?
I don't have that totaled. But it switches from 3,720 to 450 on that one line item. And then we would be subtracting 3,720 and replacing it with 450. And then we would also have the option, which I would prefer to do in following years, to keep the iReady reading diagnostic K-12 for $400, but they're giving it to us for free next year if we purchase the suite that we're looking at. So we'd be reducing that total by over 33,000.
3280.
Yeah.
And but you said, but we probably have another 400 that comes back in.
I would like to, just because if we can do a diagnostic K-12, I think it's worth $400.
So we're talking so you said it was 11,000, what?
480.
11,480. And if we subtract, so 9,480,
I mean, I can do the math if you.
9,880, somewhere in there. Ongoing.
Well, the other thing that, right now Krista's got it in the budget and it'll work, but right now we don't know how much money so we could approve the curriculum. And, with the caveat that if they don't reduce our funding, we can.
So right now, our budget
It'll just come back to us if they do reduce our funding for us to review.
Yeah, our budget this year allotted $3,000 in curriculum to K2, 3, 5, 6, 8.
3,000.
Uh-huh.
For
Because
classroom, okay.
plus then more curriculum for at the high school level. So this is already basically what we allotted. We would just be taking it and saying, instead of saying, hey, teachers, go do all this work and buy your own stuff, we would say, here you go. And we would be impacting the K-8 budget by like $2,480.
Yeah, it's about $200 a student.
To
Yeah.
adopt.
On an ongoing basis, so it is a lot of it has an annual cost. But that's okay, I mean,
We have to remember, like, we're not gonna have to buy. When I say recurring, we're not gonna have to buy the TCI books again, so that would be subtracted.
okay.
So let me look at the ones that would be reoccurring, trying
I
to.
think it's a reasonable cost.
Yeah, sounds like it.
When I had the conversation with Kristen, it started out like this, like, okay, Kristen, I'm gonna give you my absolute wish list for curriculum. And then we're gonna see what we can do. And she's like, when I gave it to her, she goes, where's the rest of it? And I'm like, okay, like, in other words, like, for a school to spend that, you're not, like, Kelly, you're not out of alignment with
No.
what you should be asked, like, you're fine. So, I think it would be a really solid investment. I think it would really help our K-8 teachers with prepping and planning and not having to find things on OfferUp or wherever you found Wonder and self-source it and go pick it up, and they're putting in an unbelievable amount of work just to have instructional materials. And that is really a responsibility that should fall to the board and the administrators to provide that for them.
So what's missing?
When we're done with this.
So we did iReady math.
Mhm,
Now we added these in, we added a history.
mhm.
Science.
So,
What?
we have
Science.
some, like social emotional things that we can get for free, like PBIS is available for free. And then there are several ways to get science, like supplemental sciences for free as well. One of the nice things about the iReady reading is that it embeds content. So for K-5, they'll have science and social studies embedded in their texts. And then the teachers can use that to inform their hands-on science projects. So, for example, in 3rd grade, there's a whole unit on like underwater sea creatures. It talks about like the anglerfish and all kinds of really cool, creepy things that 3rd graders get into. And that would satisfy a science standard, but then our teachers could then be creative and do some type of hands-on project to go along with that. And I think that is a reasonable ask.
What about
them.
health and physical education? Is that going?
Ms. Duffus takes care of all of that. A lot of it comes from state required standards and then free curriculum as well.
Okay.
So at this point, you don't have another, like,
I don't have anything else on the horizon that would be a financial impact. For PCIA, almost all of the materials are
yeah.
decided for us.
Right.
They'll continue to have their budgets is the plan. And then they show me what is being requested and we, move forward with it based on what the partner colleges want. But this should be everything to cover K-8 that we can't get for free.
I think one big factor is the excitement of our teacher.
I'm sure that radiates
If we have a
down to the
teacher-
children.
It has to.
Yeah,
It has
absolutely.
to, that's why it's so important.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can tell you from my experience as a classroom teacher, on years that we had to create our own curriculum, it tripled my workload for just one subject matter. I can't imagine what it's been like to do it for every subject matter right now
If for 3 grades.
and 3 grades.
Mhm.
I mean, like the amount of hours that Miss B has put in this year just to have instructional materials is.
Yeah.
It's superhero level, so we really need to take care of that.
She
Yeah,
works every Saturday. In case nobody knows. She works every Saturday preparing paperwork for her kids.
Yeah. we have to get this fixed for them.
Great.
Okay, well, when we get to the action items, we can certainly modify that to saying curriculum adoption. If somebody would, when we get there, make that motion.
Can I suggest a restroom break?
Sure, let's take 5 minutes at 7:36. We're gonna take a 5-minute break and we'll be back and get started. We've got some policies coming up that are gonna take some discussion. And so we also can postpone if we need more time, because there's a lot involved in those.
I felt the knob that
So it does.
moved the seat forward, felt the other one.
And I'm
Okay.
like, whatever.
I usually fill that out for
Next
you.
thing you know, it starts
3-0.
vibrating.
Our
I'm not gonna do that
has
since I wasn't
heated
there.
on the
Okay,
side.
so we're back
Yeah.
in session and the next
That's
item
what
on
this
the
has, so
agenda.
it has air conditioning in the seat, it has heating.
What is the next item on the agenda?
And it has a massage.
Superintendent evaluation.
Yeah,
Is it, are we there already?
I filled up the
So-
form and it's sitting in my car,
That's
my
okay.
wrong car,
So-
not the one I'm here with today.
To start off with, on the superintendent evaluation, let's go through her goals and her accomplishments towards her goals, which she has completed for us. Because that is part of her evaluation, is that how she
This
has.
is what we got a while back.
Yeah, it's just, I added an achievement section underneath each
Oh,
This
one.
shows the
Alright.
accomplishments per
Okay.
goals. And I had written down a few things. But one of the things I wanted to point out in looking at this and part of the evaluation is if you go through somewhere. Oh, here it is at the very back. No, the very front.
Oh, and this.
Yeah, at the very front isn't this where the
Yes, that looks
the
like.
newsletters?
Yeah,
Okay.
so there's.
They're in the back.
Okay, there they are.
Oh, I missed a couple things on my report. I just
So-
saw them.
If you look at the newsletter, which you probably don't ever have time to read the whole thing, but if you go to page 3, she lists out everything that's happening. She's got everything on the calendar. She's bringing staff up to date on what's going on. She's letting them know about committee meetings and what's coming up. And she's got the common committees that are established, the building leadership team, the management educator committee, the professional learning committee, the community of practice, the MTSS, and then they have curriculum and all those things. And so these newsletters, you have a copy in your book because it's just really important. Now, she sends this out every week to all staff, and then she sends out once a month to all parents.
And then the monthly newsletter, the one that says MASD, which you also have 2 months where it has my face on the front of it.
Oh, okay, this one.
Right.
That one goes out to all families, K-12.
And so I think that these are real important because as we know, it's very hard to stay in touch with our community. We have the community events, which it's very hard to talk to everybody and to make yourself available to everybody because they're just so full of stuff going on and the kids are the focus and ice cream and things like that. So I think that these are very important and have been very valuable to me in understanding her connection with staff and teachers and our instructors and our families and everything. So as we go through our goals, Part of her success is shown in these newsletters. So Kelly has written at the bottom of each one, some of the things that have been, she has accomplished towards these goals. If you have something as you're reviewing them, that we will, need to look at as she sets goals for next year, and as we give her guidance on what we'd like to see her have as goals next year, be sure and circle them and keep copies of this. Do you have anything you want to let us know?
Yeah, I just want to say, under the achievements, I tried to keep it brief and just address the specific items in the goals. It's definitely not all encompassing of what is happening or the great work that the team here is doing to help us reach these goals, but hopefully it highlights the success that we're having in the specifically bullet pointed areas underneath the goals. And if you feel like anything's missing, I'd be happy to address that and provide more detail.
So the whole school assembly is a birds of prey assembly?
It was so cool. I have like 150 photos on my phone. It is.
Say that
it was
again,
so
what
cool.
did you say?
Well, cause it's the bobcats and, oh no, that's the birds of prey assembly.
It was an actual, but like.
Oh, they actually brought
an
it in,
actual-
yeah.
Yeah, it's like an actual, like, yeah, we had actual birds of prey expert bring in.
That's cool.
Birds of, yeah, so, oh, I'm sorry, you were thinking that was just what
No.
we called it, no. No, it was actually we were gifted a demonstration from a local bird rescue, and she brought in. Jessica, was it 6 birds?
Yeah.
6 birds, owls and hawks, and the students were able to ask questions and be really engaged. It was incredible.
Is she the one that lives here in town?
No, she was from in the city somewhere, but I think
Cause there used to be a lady that,
there,
I
yeah,
don't know if she still lives here or not.
no, but
The,
I can't recall her name.
lives down on the flat.
There used to be one there. I
Like
don't know if she's still
Cook or
there.
Underwood somewhere,
Yeah, she wasn't local.
yeah.
Well, this lady was,
Yeah, I remember you could take a baby deer to her or something.
Yeah,
What-
yeah, I can't think of her name right now.
Me and my daughter, we found in the middle of the road one day, a screech owl. We stopped, picked it up. So we're just holding it in our hand like this. We took it to a baseball game, which we're headed to. So we get there, give it to Jetty. Jetty says, I know who to take it to. She took it to this lady that lives here
Oh,
and she takes care of birds.
Yeah,
So this bird had a broken wing. So about 3 months later, we get a phone call to come get this bird. So screech owls, I didn't know that they only live in 1 square mile. That's it. So we had to take this bird back to where we found it, okay?
Oh.
So we take it back and she told me, so it's in a cage. Do not put your hand in that cage. Screech owls have enormously strong beaks and they're sharp and that bird will take your finger off.
Oh.
Like, okay. So we get out there. We open the cage, set it down, go bird, go. And it goes to the back of the cage. We're like, so finally I'm kind of like kicking the cage just a little bit. Bird staying in the back of the cage. I pick the cage up and I tip it upside down and I'm like shaking them, come on out. And it won't come out. So I stick my hand in there. It steps up onto my hand. I bring it out of the cage. We're just looking at it and we start petting it. Just sit there, it's just a little bird, so, and it just, 5 minutes went by, we're just petting it, and it finally flew away.
That's a pretty cool story.
It was pretty
It
awesome.
didn't eat you and didn't peck your hand.
I was waiting for the I still have the scar.
I was wondering if you'd say something like that.
No, I think it sat there and let us at it and looked at it, it's like, thank you for saving me, because really it was, if I didn't pick it up, somebody would have ran over it.
Pictures if you wanna, I'm not gonna share it.
That
Well,
was a
next.
pretty good assembly though.
Well, I wanna
was
know-
there, I
Oh,
was.
go ahead.
I wanna know when you're gonna have a bobcat.
You know what,
Because
Jane,
you don't give the owl.
if you can find a wildlife expert who is willing to bring bobcats and other predatory felines
Got one
in,
right there.
There was one out here.
I would be happy to do that. I'm sure that would be a very exciting.
I'm sure
Here
the
are
kids
some-
would love it too.
Here are some photos from the event.
That's awesome.
Ooh, look at that. Isn't that cool?
A horned owl, is that a horned owl?
Mhm.
Yeah.
He was very cool.
The kids' favorite part is they were pooping on the gym floor.
Everywhere.
Oh, that's a beautiful.
The birds,
animal,
right?
my
Yeah.
goodness.
Yeah, the bird part. And the students got to stand afterwards and just ask question after question after question. It was almost 45
Oh,
minutes
lovely.
That's pretty.
of
Isn't that a
questions.
pretty photo? Wow. Cool.
This is Kelly's favorite.
Oh, so
That's my favorite. That's me.
That's-
That's the one I identified with.
Don't call it cute. Don't call it
That's like
cute.
the one you picked up.
It's ferocious but cute.
It
It was
it
just a
is.
tiny little thing, and it was full grown.
Not very big, no.
Yeah.
Just look at, you know.
Yes. Mighty and fierce.
So you used to hear screech owls all the time, cause they fly, when they fly, what it is, they open their mouths and they're catching bugs. And you used to, cause I used to hear this, ooh. And you're looking around, what the hell is that? And I never could figure out what it was, then with the screech owl. The lady told me, yeah, that's the sound they make.
And the hawk that they had was there because they used to be a mascot and they do not in fact have vocal cords, so they do not wear out of sounds.
Oh,
So
no
they
kidding.
can continue to squawk at you endlessly because they don't get tired. So it was rehomed. It was a very informative and excellent assembly, and I really hope we get to do it again.
Hope you do too. Let me know and I'll be there.
Okay.
Okay, any
like
more
that.
discussion on goals and accomplishments?
Yeah.
Or birds.
We could talk all night. We got a lot of stuff to get done, so. Anything else about goals and accomplishments? All right, so I did the evaluation with the ones I had. I will go home and add the next two that I just received and will receive. Eric, if you'll send you to me, give it to me or what have you. And so what I did here, each one of the forms we filled out had a major category, and under that category were probably 3 to 5 different things. So I added those up. There's the highest possible score. There's the score that was given. And so I will go in and add the 2 that we don't have yet and come up with the new total. Now, in some cases, Kelly, please remember that there are some areas where respondents felt that they didn't have the information to be able to answer the question. And so that's one reason I brought out the newsletters and stuff, because that does demonstrate a little bit more. So if we don't hear about it in our board meetings and discuss it or have input, sometimes we don't know, but that's for us to learn. And so we need to be more diligent about being aware of what's going on. And so this is how the score came out right now. I'll work with that. I did do a quick take a 3-word phrases or whatever from the comments that we received. They were enormous. I wrote them all down. I wrote them all down because this is Kelly's first year. And the accomplishments that she has made with the comments we have received back are just phenomenal. And I hope it's not her best year ever. I hope we get more.
So these are all
And so each year the board can decide if we're going to seek input formally from our teachers and our staff, or whether we're going to seek input informally. We don't have to do that part each year. It's our responsibility to be knowledgeable and aware. And maybe next year we'll be more knowledgeable and aware on what's going on. I included I guess I could say negative comments. And one thing I'd like to say is that Kelly has already seen these and she has already taken action to address some of these. One of them is she has initiated a committee to look at the procedures with our discipline policy. It's really the procedures rather than the policy itself. She has a committee going, working at that involves teachers and parents and the principal. She's also initiated a review of our out-of-district student policy. And so she's taken some of these and immediately taken action. And so I think that that's important to understand. And do you have anything else you want to add to that?
I just think that, there'll always be, area for growth, and I'm really thankful to have feedback that will help me continue to grow in my role here and serve the staff and the students and the greater community even better, each year. So I appreciate the process, as far as seeking flows and growth. I think it's really important, and I would, I would like to see it continue, in a variety of different ways, in the future.
And I think the focus, on these responses a little bit different than our survey. So that survey was very important, is mostly was on parent involvement and discipline. And I don't remember, it kind of goes a little bit of everywhere. Now we had one letter from an individual who, what misunderstood or wasn't knowledgeable a lot of things that were going on. And I didn't know how to address that. And, for example, there was a criticism of Kelly doing the school improvement plan. But that person probably wasn't aware that that's a mandated thing that we have to do. We hadn't done it for 2 previous years, so she had to recreate the last 2 years as well as do this year to get it in to meet the state requirements. So there's a lot of things where maybe someone didn't know the whole situation and was providing negative comments. And so I didn't know how to put those down, but, Kelly's aware of them, and maybe we can help people be more knowledgeable about what's going on. So again, I will add in the chart, I'll add the results and fill up columns D and E and have the final one. The final, we are required to do this, and we do have to report that we completed it. Not sure how we submit it, but I guess I'll have to find that out. We don't submit all the attachments. We only submit this, I think. But I'll find out exactly who we submit it to and how we do it.
We just file it and we give it to Kelly.
Huh?
I'm sure we can find it on OSPI's website.
Yeah, I
exactly.
think we give it to Kelly and we
There's
file it.
some certification somewhere that just needs to be marked that it was done.
Yeah.
So I can't see any reason for it going anywhere else.
Yeah, I know we're mandated to do it. I just don't know what it says we're mandated to do with it.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure she can educate us. And so at the next meeting then, now that we've got this finished, at the next meeting, we will be addressing Kelly's contract for the following year. And so that's a very important piece of discussion for us. Now that we've got the evaluation finished, we're ready for that. Any other questions about superintendent evaluation? Did I forget anything or? Okay, let's go on to policies. Policies are under a tab. The first one there is student discipline. Now, this doesn't show any real significant changes in the policy itself. And you're still working on procedures, right?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
So we want to make sure that the policy is adopted and ready to go, and then.
Yeah, and this is a first reading of this policy, so this one will come up again next meeting.
Oh, okay.
So I just wanted to call attention to the fact that our existing policy and WASDA's model policy were almost identical. So we were in really good shape, but we reviewed it anyways. Part of the roundtable discussion on this policy, a suggestion was made to move providing a safe environment closer to the top of the first bulleted list, just to ensure that it felt like it was a very important item. And so I went ahead and moved that based on staff feedback.
So basically, that's
That's it.
change.
That was a
Yeah.
change. Otherwise,
That's
we
not
were,
really a change. It's just-
right. Otherwise, we
changing
were already in alignment with the model policy. I think discipline is always going to be a challenging topic because of all of the laws around it.
Yeah, the state is changing the definitions of a few things, but I don't think that impacts policy.
It does not.
It
It
will
will
just impact
impact the
procedures.
procedure, which we've been sharing a lot of the matrices and
Okay,
discussing the state's definitions of things and, what does and does not qualify for different levels of response.
okay, so the next first reading, oh, I'm sorry, did anybody have any questions, other questions or comments on discipline policy? Okay, the next first reading is of non-resident students. I have to say this policy looks a lot different than our current policy. Done. But I haven't read it, totally, so I completely understand what the differences are. I do see that several things were taken out, and I didn't ask the question when the lady was speaking, but we have in the past had attendance as a
Yeah, and it was not on the model policy. However, it is somewhat addressed indirectly in what is left on page 2.
H was crossed out.
Mhm.
And the
And-
one
and-
reason that's important to me is that we have a precedence of using attendance.
So with the emphasis on mental health and things like that, the state of Washington has made some significant changes to like excused absences. They've added in mental health days and things like that. And I believe that would be partially why attendance was no longer on their model policy. However, we do want students to be successful in the programs that they're in, and we know that if they aren't coming to school, they won't be. And so while attendance in and of itself may not be the reason, their outcomes based on low attendance would continue to be a reason.
Well, I saw in the survey that attendance was one of the things about student learning. They did have it up there as attendance. And it does say excessive absences, but so that's something we'll want, as the first reading, that's something we'll probably want to talk about on whether or not we're going to keep attendance in there and what hopefully it doesn't open us up to any issues if we take it out, since we have used that reason in
So,
the past.
I'm sorry, I found it's D. So, students' attendance in the district is likely to negative impact the classroom learning environment. So a chronically absent student does negatively impact the learning environment.
So really H is gone, but D
And is
covers
there-
it.
Definition for excessive absences or chronic?
10 days in a school year is considered chronic.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Is that excused
10
attendance? Huh?
10 total.
10 total? Yikes. Well, that's not,
That's not very much, really. I mean.
There's only 180 school days.
Yeah, I
So
know.
but yeah, that is Washington State's definition of chronically absent is a student with
Okay.
10 or
things
more.
are
So is
different. In
that
the
in
olden
this?
days, my family could take me on a vacation for a week and not get in trouble because I wasn't here. Nowadays, they cannot do that.
Yeah.
You can't
A
do
lot
that.
of families still do.
And I think there's some kids.
They do, they just, it's chronically absent.
There's, yeah, because there's no penalty.
Illness, I mean,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that if there's an illness such as a child's in the hospital or broken leg or something, there's some exceptions, I assume.
Right, and we
Yeah.
wouldn't, there's not really action that we take other than like contacting the family. So an example of where D might come into play is, let's say we have a course that relies upon students reading chapters and discussing it and having discourse. So a student who's chronically absent is impacting the learning environment by not being there to participate in the discussion and
Right.
that's a negative impact. Or a student who's chronically absent and misses half of the foundational lessons in multiplication. That's a negative impact to the
Right.
class because it relies on students learning at a reasonable rate. Or at least having access to instruction. And if
Put
they
the
aren't,
burden on the teacher.
yeah, and
Mhm.
so even with taking out the specific line item that refers to excessive absenteeism, we're still able to look at the impact of absenteeism.
Okay, put it-
Right, and we are talking about acceptance of non-resident students.
Right, right.
We're not
Correct.
talking about district students, so
Correct.
it's,
that take-
that's a whole, yeah.
And it means
takes
your
away from-
definition of accepting evidence, we don't have to worry about, because we're looking at the impact.
Right.
So that's
And
really
so the
good.
impact on the resident students, I mean, all the students, but
Correct. Yes.
first
Yeah.
and foremost, the resident.
Yeah, and we wouldn't know necessarily like if a student was gone, we may not have enough information if a student missed a lot of time because of a major illness or an injury, right? We're not gonna get records at that level. We would just have whatever the family was telling us at that point, so it could be inaccurate.
Right.
So my other comment is under children of full-time employees, I really think, and I don't think there's any law, I thought I checked the RCW, but part-time employees, especially permanent part-time employees.
And that's been our practice.
I know, that's our practice, so it doesn't say that here,
Correct.
so we need to add that.
Do you want to remove full-time?
Children of employees, let's just do that, excellent, good idea.
So,
Children of certified or classified employees, comma, and classified school employees who work in the non-district through
ESD. So like right now, we have a special education para who's here every day. If she
right,
had
so
a-
there should be a comma after the, before the and, so that it's clear that they're separate.
I
Well, I
think
don't think,
that's probably not pursuant to RCW.
If we remove full-time.
Yeah. Which is okay, but I think what we do is pursuant to RCW to stay legal.
Mhm.
We could also say additionally. Students of part-time employees are qualify for the same benefits.
Sure, we could add basically the same sentence without pursuant to.
right.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll make a change based on those recommendations and bring
Okay.
it for the second read.
I think that's great.
This doesn't. So the whole 40 and does not exceed 15 in the classrooms, no 40 students in grades 9 through 12.
That is not from the model
No,
policy. That's
we
us.
added that.
Mhm.
And the one thing we had there, and you changed it slightly. It did say in grades 9 through 12, provided. That originally it said the superintendent may approve an application, like if we only had 9 kids in like a classroom, even though we're already at 40. Then the superintendent had the flexibility to go to 41.
Yeah, so it
Right.
read a little funny, as you can see, like where it says like the 40 and the red 40 is crossed out, like that's verbatim in policy. It currently says does not exceed 4,040. I believe that was just a typo, right?
I would guess.
And then this is also
Probably.
where it got a little unclear that the district may decline, superintendent may approve an application. So I feel like there was maybe a typo in the language. And so
I think the originally was supposed to be, the superintendent may approve something that
Okay.
exceeds those. If it doesn't. It was supposed to be, if it is determined that acceptance of a non-resident student that would exceed these limits. Would not constitute financial hardship for the district or any other manner result in a negative impact to the district. Then
Because-
the application could be approved by the
Right.
so
superintendent.
I would caution us from switching it that way
Okay,
and leaving it to may decline.
okay,
Because we want to make sure that our ceiling is
Got it.
an option for denying a choice transfer. But by saying may decline allows the superintendent the flexibility to not
Okay.
decline.
Well, the other
That-
thing is
that's-
that
sure. I mean,
Right.
as long as it still reads just a little bit
Yeah,
on here odd, but yeah.
we want to make sure that if we ever decline someone for capacity, that our capacity is crystal clear,
Yeah,
but our ability to go beyond the capacity is discretionary.
yeah, you need that discretionary ability to go beyond the 40
Right.
especially.
Yeah,
and I think we have to be careful because, and hopefully I can explain it, but if we have a big second grade class. And we have less than 15 kids in that room because we have very few kindergarten or first graders, but when that big second grade class goes to third grade. If we had big classes in our third and fourth that are going to fourth and fifth, we could end up with more than 15 in a classroom. So we wanna make sure we're juggling all three, not just this classroom in this view,
Right.
but all three classrooms.
Right, and
So we don't get in a situation of having one overloaded classroom
Sure.
one year because we allowed a bigger amount
Mhm.
in the previous classroom. in the
we're,
previous year.
we are looking at our roll forward numbers for 3 years as we.
Exempt?
Okay, that's good to do it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you might give yourself that flexibility in here is that we ensure we look at a rolling 3 years to ensure that we won't. You don't have to put it in the policy.
I think that would.
Could be in your
the
procedures.
Mhm.
Yeah, it could be in your procedures.
And something like that, when you're accepting out of district students, probably is a discussion to be had with the parent when they first enroll their child in the school. Because say, we can't promise this for every year.
So I guess
mean,
we have had historically. The comment I made about like siblings,
Mhm.
should we have that in our policy? To make it,
we-
she suggested that.
I think we have it in our procedures. We also have that every year, all of our non-resident students are evaluated. You know, we reevaluate.
Yeah, I think we have that, so there's something in the
So they-
procedure somewhere where like we prioritize returning students and siblings before.
Yeah,
Yeah, right.
they do, returning students do have to put in for a choice transfer every year. And so what, we also use a kind of that first come, first serve model. And so our returning students basically have the first opportunity to decide whether they are going to return, right?
Actually,
And so, like this year where we are in the process is we put out a survey asking existing students if they planned on returning. We built our availability off of that, and then we looked at the wait list in order of requesting to be put on the wait list, and then strategically looked at like if the student number one on the wait list was at a grade level that was full, we moved to student number two, right? And even within that, keeping in mind the rolling 3 years. So there may be 2 slots in 3-5, but because of the capacity right now in middle school and a really high 7th grade class,
Yeah.
we can't add both of them in 5th grade. Like, right, so really being strategic in ensuring that our choice transfers don't push us over 15.
Right.
Knowing full well, because if we got a new in-district student, then we would exceed that. So we would need to take them.
and we've had to.
And we've had to.
Yeah.
My own
Right.
child was a 16 this year,
Right.
so.
Well, that's part of the reason I think it's at 15 and not 16 or 17 is the
Exactly.
understanding that we may go to 16 or 17.
Yeah.
right,
For
but
in-district.
if you increase it, then you just
Right.
bump it up,
Yeah.
yeah, cause problems.
So the other thing I want to make sure is, on the first page, it talks about, access to the forms and things like that are online. I want to make sure that parents know they don't have to do it online, because we may have parents who don't have access to online. And we need to make sure that they have the availability of forms to request that their student come in.
Yeah, we
I
always
think
have
that's
packets
really,
ready.
that's real important, that it not just be online. Okay, so that's the first reading of that one. Any other questions on that one? Let's go on to second reading, capital assets. If I remember right, this one was a piece of cake. It was just merely changing the level from 5,000 to 10,000.
Yeah, the state loves to mix it up. Sometimes we capitalize the D in district, sometimes we don't. Depending on,
That is.
it's so
weird, isn't
inconsistent. It is so
really
inconsistent.
inconsistent.
have
It's
not-
It's annoying.
It
Yeah.
it really is.
It's,
Yeah.
it's like, what's the determination?
There's no grammatical rule that aligns with what they're doing. I think it depends on who wrote it, so. We'll just go ahead and keep making those minor adjustments.
So this one can be approved because this is the second reading. Anyone wants to make a motion to do so?
Are we gonna do it individually, each one?
Well, they're not, we could, as we go through these, mark which ones would you take action, which one we won't take action on. If we wanted to do that, we could do that.
Yeah,
So,
we don't-
These last 5 are ones that we can.
so on the
Oh, what-
capital asset one, is that one that we could move forward to the action agenda?
I think we should.
Okay.
Let's get that one off the list.
Yeah.
Let's go on to the next one. Sexual harassment has,
Harris.
This one has two changes, removal of under federal and state law, and then the addition of a paragraph on page 3.
Well, yeah. Okay, but the term sexual harassment may includes.
No, the S is
The S
crossed
is
out.
crossed out, may include. Yeah.
So they added the word may and they crossed out the S because it used to read includes, but now it says may
Why
include.
doesn't,
It's really hard to tell on the
The S is added on
There's a-
mine.
There's
No,
a,
there's
little line.
there's a strike through it. It's just really
Oh,
hard
it
to
just-
tell
just
because it
realized-
aligns with the middle of the S. I know, it's a strike of one letter. It's,
yeah, that's.
believe
I
me,
didn't see
I
it
am
either.
I
seeing,
just, yeah.
Diane, by the time I'm done with these, I'm seeing double cross-eyed, like they're under a lot.
Yeah.
That's like back to normal.
Kind of, yeah.
So if there, are there questions, comments, or anything on this particular one? This one was, last approved in August of 2020. So I guess that one could probably move through to the action line. Hearing no other comments or anything.
Okay.
How about policy 5011? This one is on harassment of staff. And I definitely have a comment on this one, see what everybody else thinks.
Well, we definitely should prohibit harassment of staff.
Yes, please. So I went and looked up the laws because I was a little confused. Because on page 3, there's an addition that talks about discrimination. Nowhere else does it talk about discrimination, and the law doesn't talk about discrimination. There's separate policies for discrimination. So I don't think that paragraph needs to be in there. I think that's in the wrong spot.
Wait, okay, on page 2?
Page 2,
Oh, I still choose 3.
I probably did say page 3, because-
Okay,
I think the discrimination, the one sentence that says reports of sex discrimination and sexual harassment will be referred to the district's Title IX coordinator. Which probably should say to our superintendent, but anyway.
I can currently not be the Title IX coordinator
Oh, really?
based on the recent changes in law.
Oh,
So I had
goodness.
to assign that role to Amy. It's changed several
there you
times.
So
go.
somewhere
this-
on our website, it tells everybody who our Title IX
so
coordinator is.
this
We've
is
updated
okay.
everything.
Well, the paragraph below that, the reports of discrimination, this isn't a discrimination policy, this is a sexual harassment policy. And we have a discrimination policy, and this subject just sticks out.
Oh,
And the line says reports of disability discrimination or harassment.
but the first sentence in this policy says the district is committed to a positive and productive working environment free from discrimination, including sexual harassment.
Well, I
So
don't
they
know.
include,
I think this discrimination thing is
yeah,
because there's nothing else about it. It's just one sentence that starts listing all this stuff.
I don't know, I mean,
Maybe
The
we should
title
look at
is
our
sexual
discrimination
harassment.
policy and see what our discrimination policy says.
I don't know. I mean, sexual harassment is discrimination.
I know, but
I
it doesn't
mean-
talk about sexual, it talks about discrimination based on sexual orientation, gender expression, gender identity. And I just think this stuff doesn't belong in this particular policy. I think we have other policies that belongs there too.
But that is sexual harassment.
I don't think it
You're-
necessarily is, it's discrimination.
You're discriminating according to what sex the person is.
See, we have a gender identity policy that tells you how to behave regarding gender and gender expression. And I think this just complicates everything.
So which policy are you talking about?
Yeah,
Policy 5011.
no, the other policy you're talking about.
I don't know if I have a copy of it. It's
Are you
not up
talking
for
about
consideration. right now.
3211?
That would be, if it's a 3, it's a student policy.
Gender inclusive schools,
Yeah,
that has nothing to do with our staff.
Right, that's 3 would be students. Anything that starts with 3 is a student policy.
Right.
It would need to be another 5,000 policy for it to be.
So-
5,010, not
So which paragraph are you
Non-discrimination.
talking about?
an affirmative
The one
action.
that's added in the larger type.
So the reports of sex discrimination and sexual harassment, that's the one? Okay,
Well, the
so,
first sentence is already, is kind of already there. They
Okay,
just
so-
changed
so-
discriminatory. They took out discriminatory,
right,
it
but
just said discrimination.
that's not what they're talking about here. So if you carefully read that paragraph, they're distinguishing sex discrimination, sexual harassment will be referred to District Title IX. All of the rest, it says, will be referred to District Civil Rights Compliance Coordinator. So they're just trying to distinguish the
They-
difference between
They separated them.
that's all they're trying to say is
Yeah.
the sexual harassment will go to Title IX Coordinator. And all of this other stuff is going to go to, civil rights.
Civil rights
Civil
compliance.
rights
Compliance
compliance
coordinator.
coordinator.
And
That's really all that whole thing
because
says.
it used to say, refer to the district's Title IX / civil rights.
Right.
Coordinator, but now it's referred to the district's
I see. what-
district's
Does
Title
that make sense?
IX
It does,
coordinator.
I did
Yeah.
not read it
All
that
of
way.
this
That's-
stuff
Yeah,
goes to the
no,
civil
that's-
rights
that's all they're
compliance
doing. They're
coordinator.
just separating all this stuff from these two things here. That'll go to District 9 Coordinator, where all the other stuff is more of a
You're right.
civil rights.
And
It
then,
almost seems like we should have a different policy that
And-
addresses
Well,
civil rights.
I'm sure they do, because actually, if you look at all of the policies that go with this, none of them are what they're trying to separate. There's nothing here that,
it's,
Yeah,
refers to civil rights compliance.
it's,
yeah,
it's
I think
making-
it's a
it's making-
separate policy.
no, but
Yeah,
Anita, it's
so-
making your point, kind of. It's if somebody comes in and they're like, have this policy, and then what they start talking about is discrimination, this is saying, oh, this doesn't go to your Title IX coordinator, this
Right.
goes to your civil rights compliance coordinator.
Right.
And if this is a disability issue, no, go to the Section 504 coordinator, and that'll be a different policy. So it's just laying it all out to say, the stuff that can get lumped in here shouldn't. It's being explicit, saying if it fits one of these buckets, it doesn't belong here, it goes to your, it
So
goes to
maybe
your
this
civil rights.
starting with
compliance
report
coordinator.
should be a separate paragraph, because the one above and the one below is a separate paragraph. Reports of disability and discrimination is a separate paragraph. And if it was a separate paragraph, then maybe it'd be more
Clear.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, two
Yeah.
spaces
Yeah.
after the
Yeah.
coordinator would be fine.
yeah. I personally am fine the way it is.
Yeah, because it reads,
Yeah.
you understand how it reads. Yeah.
I've
And
been
that's-
reading
and
legal,
the same reason
but you,
for
I
the
imagine you've
sexual
been reading
harassment
legal
in the
stuff for a
first,
long time too, so.
Yeah,
same thing for in the first part of this policy, where it talks about discrimination, talks about.
Yeah.
But the title is sexual harassment.
It just
So
separates it out.
But they're, yeah.
Yeah.
So it works.
But the last line is a separate paragraph, so if the 3 situations were separate paragraphs, it'd be a little more clear.
You can break it down
Sure.
and just kind of open it up a little
Okay,
bit.
and this is a second reading, so we can move this one forward if everyone would
Okay.
like to action.
is that your preference to put a couple carriage returns after?
I
the-
think Kelly wrote a note.
Yeah, I can create a paragraph in between coordinator
Yeah,
and report
So
and
if
make
we
it
were to
a,
approve it, you would be
I will
approving. what
approved
you're-
as amended. Yep.
Okay,
yeah, I'm fine with that.
yeah, that too.
Okay, policy 2230. 2230, transition to kindergarten.
And I know we don't have one, but just in case.
Just
if we
in
ever
case.
do it.
Looks all red.
We'll
It's
have it
brand
in
new.
place.
Better to have it before than after.
Other districts have it, and if we, because it does say that we kind of have to look to see what are the resources parents have for children of that age. And if Stevenson felt they didn't have any resources, then I guess if we ever got to that point, we would have that. On to policy 2020, course design, selection and adoption. We have just had that great experience. And is there anything here, Kelly, other than that, that improves your experience in implementing this policy?
No, I think our adoption of the curriculums today gets us in alignment with the policy.
So why did we remove the college and high school one?
Which,
In the middle,
Under the core instructional materials on the first page.
We can add it back in if you'd like.
Yeah.
Okay.
no,
I think,
what did we
what?
remove?
College and high school.
It's
classes.
it's part of their agreement when they,
right, so we're adopting a policy that and we're just making it
I
clear
mean,
that.
we can have it in there, but it's part of the requirement when a instructor takes on a college and the high school.
But
course.
and actually, we have
It
the
just would be a
academy.
bit
We don't have a high
redundant,
school.
so,
No, our Innovation Academy implements a college and high
Right.
school program.
Well, the college and high school program at the state didn't start till after we created the academy. The college and high school option for high schools started after we were
Yeah,
first.
because we were, yeah.
Yeah,
there
One of the
are
first.
some, Eric, of the courses that we teach where the core, instructional materials are not necessarily mandated by the college either.
Right,
So like in a lit class or something like that, right? It would really,
I see, and we don't have a corresponding post-secondary interagency.
Agreed.
and we work with multiple different community colleges, so,
Well, that would be the corresponding post-secondary.
right, but we have, you know, so they're doing it based on their agreement when they get approved to teach the college course. When it's required by the college, but it's not always required by the college. So adding it back in isn't a contradiction, but it is a redundancy, so whichever the board prefers. Well, I don't have any particular opinion on it one way or the other.
Right, but we don't, in most of it. Part of the reason to have it there is specifically in the community curriculum discussions. We work with our college, but we can't just like pick a random
Okay.
curriculum to use, because we have to teach these college classes.
If we want to do this one as amended, we can make that correction too before putting it in the
I
manual.
think that does make sense. Yeah, that it state that.
you could add if applicable or as applicable. Because it's not a mandatory thing with us.
Yeah, in accordance with whatever our agreement is to
Okay.
teach.
Yeah, as applicable or some things that we're not,
Got it.
somebody doesn't think we have to teach all those. And their kids need it or something. Okay, anything else? All right, let's move on to public comment. Hey, hi, any comments? Thank you for sticking with us. We're almost done. All right. Any old business or any new business we need to discuss or anything good for the order? We went over all the things coming up. It's a busy, busy month. By the time we have our June meeting, school will be over. Do you know that?
Yeah.
So when we get down here, we're gonna set a budget workshop. Let's not forget that. All right, so let's go on to action items. The first thing I want to bring up is Kelly's request for tuition reimbursement. So one of the things the board never takes and approves is the tuition reimbursement and the cost for our teachers who every 3 years have to take a class to maintain their teaching certificate. And we actually pay for that. And we pay for other educational opportunities for our staff. But they never come to us for approval. I think they probably should. They never have, but we are seeing this one from Kelly. And she has submitted with it her, does this say grades?
That one might just be, I can get the grades. I got an A.
Find out what her grade was.
She said she got an A.
Yeah, well, have you read her resume? She went all the way through college with a straight 4.0.
I haven't had a B since my associate's degree.
I thought she was gonna say high school. I'm disappointed.
Well, that's not true. I had not an A on courses that I transferred in from when I went to college straight out of high school. And I had a B plus in a math class. Way back when.
You slacker.
I know, I'm really sorry. I apologize for my low performance.
So you're not perfect.
I'm not perfect. I'm so far from perfect. So far. That's what I should have put as my quote in there. I'm so far from perfect.
We all should say. I mean, cause you know,
I can pull up my transcript if you would like it.
No. I believe it.
I did get it.
So pass that over and if somebody wants to make a motion.
So do we have? We had our tuition reimbursement agreements that,
Yeah, they usually, these would come to me, but mine needs to go somewhere and it's in my contract. To have this if there's funds in the budget, and I did clear with Kristen that there was. It's under the budgeted amount.
So it's been moved and seconded to accept the pay the reimbursement request. All further discussion?
yeah, I wasn't saying we shouldn't do it, I was saying. I was saying, I think we have a tuition reimbursement form or agreement between the district and the. Oh, that looks like.
That is the form.
Oh, is it?
Claim for reimbursement, says it right on.
Yeah, that's the one that they would use for theirs. It's just generic. Or are you thinking there's a specific?
We
one
had a
for tuition?
specific one that had some terms and had a bunch of other stuff for our whole,
I asked
for
Lisa.
our whole tuition reimbursement plan.
I've
Cause
never
we had a
seen it.
policy around that.
I've never
and,
seen that.
I mean,
For our teachers and everything?
Yeah, well, so like when they went back to get, a lot of our teachers to go
Yeah.
back to get certified, and then it had some things like, you know, this is reimbursed over this amount of time and a bunch
It
of
never
other
comes
terms
to the
that you
board
agreed
and
to.
I've never seen that, so I guess we better look it up.
Well, we haven't, it did come to the board.
but it's
We
been
just-
like
we-
2018.
Well, not since I've been here.
Yeah.
No, we just
It's
haven't
been a
had
long
any,
time.
I mean, Bob brought his to the board. And then we haven't had any since that, when he got his
So was
superintendent
this
certification.
online?
The course?
Yeah.
Yeah, my,
George Fox.
I do think that, well,
Well,
we have a lot of
it's mostly
reimbursements that don't come to the
I
board
have to
and
do a
Kelly approves
residency
all of
each
those.
summer.
Oh, no, kidding.
Reimbursement for
On
mileage
campus.
and things like that.
5 days in every July.
So it's
until
just
I finish.
hers that come to us. But I don't know, our teachers are probably all new except Jennifer, so I don't know when she has to do her 3-year renewal or whatever.
And we are part of the clock hours consortium, so we pay the fees for teachers to take professional development that counts as clock hours, which gets them towards they need 100 clock hours for the research, which can be either college credits or like professional development.
And so we don't see that for reimbursement, that just comes as an invoice on our AP vouchers.
Mhm. It's part of, yeah, it's an ESD contract. And then any of the other ones they'd go to me and I would sign them based on funding.
And so
I
we
would
would
check with
see those on
Kristen.
our AP voucher list. So this is the only one that would come to us, is her tuition reimbursement. So we do have a motion on the floor. It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, it's been passed to reimburse the spring tuition for Kelly. And congratulations on our 4.0 grade.
27 more credits to go. Hoping you fall from grace at some point and not have all A's. It will take the pressure off.
we've already come to B plus, so see.
I know, right? I mean,
No
I
pressure.
will tell you, I even was having my son tutor me while he was in Italy. That class was so hard.
Wow.
He would get on Zoom and help me with my homework.
Was it math? Kelly, was it math?
It was, yeah, I had some math class. And then when he got out of the military, he asked me for help with his pre-calculus class.
So what are you finding, Eric?
Well, we put something in place, and it was our certification assistance program. And then,
Can you show Kelly how to find that?
Yeah, I'll see what I can find.
My brother's daughter, his youngest, is doing pre-med in Hawaii.
Oh, gee.
First semester's 4.0. Second semester, she got 2 Bs. She's devastated.
Did she spend too much time on the beach?
No, that kid freaking,
It must have been a while, because when I asked
Study.
Lisa, Eric, this was the form. Oh, I just found it, the tuition assistance program doc. I see one. I had to go into a different.
Well, so you can review that and bring us to it next time, make sure it's doing its job and see if there's any changes we need to make. So it's just a,
Oh, this is just in draft form, the one I found. But yeah, I can look into
yeah,
it.
next
further.
year she's
so
gotta
it's
go
not a
back.
policy, it's something
Do
we
another
put
year.
together and created ourselves.
And they should
And then
have
approved by the
medical.
board, where
Yeah.
we said like, and if
I don't know
somebody,
where
if
she's
we,
gonna
somebody
do
gets
that.
fired, there was like a certain.
Another tropical.
Hers has draft
I would,
printed on it.
I mean,
I might have just pulled up the wrong
copy.
version.
mom and dad's paying
I have to
for
go
it.
So I guess
into-
we need to get it out and have us look
I don't
at
know,
it, so
they-
we're all aware.
Might just keep her right there in Hawaii. That way they get to go see her.
Yeah.
Does it have a year date on it or anything? Date of approval or anything?
It's just a draft.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
found the draft too.
I did, I'll find,
Yeah.
we approved it in a meeting.
That's the only one I can find.
Well, why don't you
It's from
review that and bring it back to us?
So 2019.
Oh, goodness, that was a long time
Yeah,
ago.
it's,
I'm sure we can improve it, right?
Might not need it.
Okay, so we did that one, and then, for curriculum adoption, is there a motion to accept the proposed curriculums A through E?
I'll make a motion.
Been moved, is there a second to accept
Sure, I'll
that?
second it.
Okay, it's been moved
Not
and
doing anything.
seconded to move forward with adopting the curriculum as shown on our agenda and as discussed by the board. Is there any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, I think that's one of the best
that one's
things
worth
we
laughing
could
for,
do.
for sure.
That's the best things we could do for students to show that students come first. That is just very, very important. So next on the approval agenda would be, there's actually certified contracts. So this is a certified contract. There are no names on it. This is the standard contract Kelly's put together for our certified staff.
I have all of the actual contracts here with, salary, name, FTE information. Also,
Okay.
I just wanna make sure that they come, I only have 3 copies, so I'm gonna send
Okay.
2 your way
I'm
and
just
1
gonna
this
read
way.
them. I'm just gonna read them out because they
So
all
what-
have this. So then, with this new format, which isn't a lot different than our original format,
So
is
is
it?
this
It's
all
no,
the
it's
same
not.
It's the
thing?
same. So we have one, pardon?
Yeah,
I'm just, the,
One-
what you
the
passed us is the
Paper
same
clipped one just
thing.
has salary.
One for you and
information
one for
and
Eric to
individual
read if
names
you
on
want.
it.
Oh.
Okay, cause this
So
is,
instead of.
this is what the contract
So we can just
says,
fill in what
and
we-
then the only difference is the
Yeah, I'm not gonna
name
sign it.
and numbers, which I will read out. Once you have a chance to read this
Who's
to
it
see if
for?
you have any
They'll
questions
dictate
about
on
the
it.
terms.
high or low?
And this is the same contract that we've been using.
Yes.
So it's not-
Now, the dates have changed, the way the annual base salary is written, was changed a little bit for clarification.
Okay.
Their base pay per the CBAs and then the year schedule C. And then also included their step and education to ensure that we're all on the same page about where they fall in the schedule C. The
Yeah.
step and education wasn't on there in
Oh,
previous
good
years.
Okay, so the first contract up for approval is for Jennifer Talbot, 1.0 FTE, 180 days. Set base salary of $98,411.38, which is in accordance with our bargaining agreement, Schedule C, and goes through June 30th. The first day is, I don't see that highlighted.
August
What should we,
26.
August
Yes,
26th,
there it is.
thank you very much, it's not highlighted, so it took me a while. The second one is for Elizabeth Brooks, 1.0 FTE, 180 days, salary of 73,745.74, according to Schedule C in our CBA. And it is the same time period, August 26th through June 30th. The next one is for Dr. Harb, 1.0 FTE, 180 days for 107,984.68, again, according to the CBA, August 26th to June 30th. The next one is Jess Hawkins, 1.0 FTEs for 180 days, $102,716.82, according to the Schedule C in our CBA, August 26th through June 30th. The next one is Brian Van Duzer, 1.0 FTE for 180 days, $98,411.38 per Schedule C in our CBA, August 26th through June 30th. The next one is James Harrison, 1.0 FTE for 180 days, $96,951.07, according to our CBA Schedule C, August 26th through June 30th. The next one is Jessica Hoff, 0.5 FTE, 180 days, provisional year 3. Now, all the others are continuing permanent, is that correct? No, Elizabeth is also provisional year 2.
And Jessica Hoff, I will need to make a correction because they are. I may have to make a correction on the year, or Liz's.
So do you want to
Liz,
pull
it
that
should
one
be
out?
3. No, I'm sorry. Ms. Brooks should be provisional year 3. I will make that correction before having her sign.
Liz is provisional year 3. That's right.
Yes.
It is her 3rd year.
Yeah. And they, yeah,
Yeah. And then Jessica Hoff says it's correct.
hers is correct. Yeah, why? Yeah.
Okay, so it's 0.5 FTE for 180 days, 85,588.52 per Schedule C for August 26th through June 30th. Rachel Doofus, 0.6 FTE for 142 days, $96,950.65 per Schedule C, August 26th through June 30th. Margaret McClarney, 1.0 FTE, congratulations to us and her, 180 days for a salary of $77,270. This is continuing because she has been a teacher for enough years that she isn't provisional, even though she's moving up. So I think I read the salary, so we're on to August 26th through June 30th. Bridget Barnes, 1.0 FTE, provisional year 2, 180 days, 55,556.42, according to Schedule C in our CBA. And this is for August 26th through June 30th.
180 days, 180 days.
180 days.
Okay, so this is based on a salary for 180 days? Or do you?
So this is their contract for the school days, and then we'll issue a supplemental contract for the pre-service and PD days
Summer.
for 7.
Yeah.
So there are written to the CBAs 7 additional days. And that goes on a supplemental contract, which
Okay.
I'll be bringing to you at some point, probably
Right.
next month.
Okay.
But this is for the school year. And then for FTE, so for example, we have one instructor who's a 0.5 FTE at 180 days. It's because she'll be working every day, but a half day.
Yeah.
Versus one that's like the 0.6 for 142 is because she works not 5 days a week.
Okay. So it's this, I'm just curious, is this divided up to where they get paid all year round?
They do, they get an equal
Okay.
amount for every
12
month for
right.
12 months.
Yeah.
Right, you're right.
Yeah, their first, the first payment for this is September 25th.
Yeah.
And then they 12 payments at this.
Sorry, it's
salary.
12 payments. Okay.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they'd have a budget, so. Yeah. Or go get a
Right,
something.
yeah. No depth on it.
Oh, you found the not draft version?
That was the version we approved as a board. I just forwarded it to you.
Thank you.
I had it in an email I sent to our,
I've been searching for
to
this
our,
for.
to
really
Tracy
long.
Miller.
Okay,
So-
access to Bob's files has been a challenge this year. So
Okay.
there are things that I'm struggling to get access to. So I'm really thankful that you have that.
No, he wiped everything clean. We didn't get anything. So no date on it specifically unless you could interpret this. So you sent this to Kelly, so she's
I
got it.
sent the email that I sent to Kelly, that I had sent to
Perfect.
our lawyer saying, here's the version the board
Great,
approved,
and
can
then
you
I-
give us before the teacher starts signing it?
I can go back in the board documents, now that I have the date and try to find a copy of the signed version as well. That'll be really helpful. Thank you, Eric.
But it looks like it's not a policy. Not an official policy with a number.
So my reading is right, we've got a 0.5. I have,
So it's still the base salary. So what they do is they multiply the FTE.
okay.
Yes,
So, but it says shall receive,
a base salary.
okay.
Yeah, so
Annual
an
base,
annual
okay.
base salary.
All right.
I agree. It's
I
not
was
real
going
clear.
like, that looks wrong.
Diana, I had that question my first time. I believe me, I know exactly where your mind is.
So they don't misinterpret this.
That's how the contract has always been.
I
Okay.
remember it being very confusing last year. I remember discussing it last year.
I didn't look closely enough last year.
So do we need to approve that?
Let's see, I don't think I had a motion and a second. Further discussion? Any further discussion on the contracts?
I think Bill and then Keith seconded.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion's approved. All right, so let's go on to, we don't have any classified
Well,
contracts.
I do, I have them. I did not include them. They weren't ready, so my apologies. They're not for every member of the classified because we're still working through the paraeducator. We still have to post for that position and so I have a contract for our classified staff, with the exception of our paraeducators, not because I won't be bringing new contracts for them, but just because we have to post for the position that was vacated when Robbie left and finish that process. And I don't know if one of our existing paraeducators will want to move into that role. And so I want to make sure that I'm not bringing you a contract for,
And then change it again
and
in
then
a couple
changing
of.
it, right? So,
So Donna.
Okay.
I'll still abstain on the classified
So-
contracts.
I mean, technically,
I don't have to.
today you could.
Since you have all the parameters eliminated.
Yeah, next
So I'll
time.
read
yes.
these and kind of pass them around then,
Yeah.
because they all say the same
It's
thing
the-
except for the difference by employee. So
Yeah.
the contracts are for August 1st through July 31st for Tim Boucher for 225 days at 6.5 hours per day. He is on Schedule A of the CBA year 13. The next one is for Naomi. She is on here for August 1st through July 31st, 185 days for 5 hours a day as cook and 220 days at 3 hours a day for food service coordinator position. She is at CBA Schedule A year 8. I'm gonna pass these around so you guys can see how the contracts are written.
Anita, do you mind if I just interrupt you for one moment? The language in the contract is exactly the same as it has been in year past until we get to the board recording secretary. All that was changed was any hour and salary information in alignment with the budget and talking to the employees themselves. But everything else on there is been the same from years past, just so you know.
Okay, this one is for Barbara Zirkle for 180 days at 5.5 hours a day as bus driver and for 200 days at 2.5 hours a day for transportation coordinator. She's at Schedule A on the CBA for 20 plus years. This one is for Lisa O'Neill for 210 days at 8 hours a day. And she is at year 10 on Schedule A of our CBA. August 1st through July 31st, which I don't think I read with the previous one. This one
Says the
is,
same.
They're all the same
Yeah.
until, except for, the board recording secretary.
this one is for Jessica Manning, Board Recording Secretary, effective July 1 to July 31. Extending it subsequent years from August 1 to July 31.
Oh.
So,
I mean, she's right.
so with this one,
The
the,
CBA Schedule A. It is a little bit different.
it is a little bit different, and it's because when the contract was written this year in October, it was as a temporary position, and so the dates are off cycle. Hence the
Okay.
13 months instead of the 12 to get it on cycle with the rest of the classified employee contracts and on all of the contracts, honestly, so.
Well, I for one would like to say thank you for taking the job.
Yeah, me too.
I think it's made a big difference. It's
Yeah.
like, you know, I think we've got the things that we need.
Then, item D.
You should smack, they don't constantly know them.
Oh, no.
So.
It's what, twice a month?
Item.
No, this was.
Approved job posting.
Until budget's over, then.
We should say and.
You can send that back.
All the nights I'm
Oh,
gone.
okay.
different committees.
One of those
So-
is not classified.
Yeah, speaking of that, I would have actually been here on
Oh,
time
okay.
if I wouldn't have stopped to eat.
Weren't you supposed to be in Alaska? That's about time.
No, so,
Is there one missing there?
so the.
This one is
the
a
aunt and uncle-
different contract, so I still need to read this one.
Yeah, well, so the aunt and uncle, they called me up,
This
I
is
think it was like
certified
a
contract.
No, this should be.
a Wednesday.
Okay.
Okay,
It's not the-
I gotta give them a 2-week notice because I'm driving a school bus. They're like, oh, okay, no problem. So Friday, I gave them a 2-week notice.
I do, because it has.
Monday.
information on it.
The aunt calls me up, so can you leave Wednesday? I'm like, wait, today's day 1 of the 2 weeks, like. Well, we can't wait, okay? Then go without me,
I'm gonna take.
So they went without me,
That
so
salary
I'm fine.
information's not.
They're
And
good.
you have, what does, and they had actually sent that
That makes sense.
contract to your me.com email.
Oh,
I'm
that's
still
good.
waiting to hear what they
Or you
came
can
back
send it to
with.
the,
you know,
Millie,
I-
either one is fine.
So I sent. I
Nobody's
sent you
lived
the
in this
email
place for 4
that I
years.
sent to our lawyer saying.
They were
"Here's
up
what
there
we
for 2
approved.
weeks.
We want you to read our red line or read our version before we have the teachers use it. He came back.
They haven't
and
called me
I approved
back
it.
yet,
So
so-
then I let Bob know
Good.
Okay.
that what we
Yeah, I
approved, we don't have to change
Well, that'd
again.
be great. I think that, you know, if we look.
Well,
at
they
that at the next
might be
meeting, that'll be
scratching
super.
their head going.
Because it's good to
Okay,
have
can
that
we
in
sell-
place. We
No,
need that.
and it also was like, it wasn't.
How much
just-
do you think we
Some
can
of those
get for
certification,
it?
it was about certifications are very expensive.
And then the one
And so
kid probably
the
said,
reason
no,
we-
mom, dad, I
Like,
want
I
to.
spent a lot of time with our lawyer
Who knows what's going on?
on that, but we put together a
We'll
plan
find
that
out. I'm sure you'll
somewhat
find
protects us
Yeah.
from an employee who comes in
And,
Yeah,
Well, they better
certified,
hurry, cause I'm
and
leaving.
then leaves after a year.
No, they.
well, and that's
Yeah,
very
'cause you won't
common in
need it
private
in the June
business
meeting, right?
to have
Or
that
the July
protection.
meeting.
No, I'm gonna try to
And so we,
schedule where I make it back here for each, once
Yeah,
a
there's,
month
there's,
for the meeting.
Okay, so is there a motion for approval of the classified staff contracts as presented?
Yeah, I make a motion.
Second?
Okay, I'll second it.
no, they can't.
second. You can now.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded on the classified contracts that we presented, which we realize there's still a few to come in. Is there any further discussion? All right, in that case, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
I guess, no, I'm not opposing. It's slow. I guess I can't vote for this.
Voting?
I guess
So we do also
You can't
have a
no
certified
conflict on that.
contract for a provisional elementary long-term substitute teacher.
No, that's
No, that
just
was,
a
that was already,
sample.
that
That's
was,
just a
that was
sample.
the sample contract you handed out to all of us.
Right.
Never mind.
Scratch that.
That's a sample
Back
contract,
up the recording.
Nice sample.
obviously. I don't remember reading that. But we also want to approve the job posting for a full-time teacher and
And the
a
paraeducator.
carer.
And you should have the newly agreed upon paraeducator job description, worked with the union and got this
That was in our email.
update. It should be in the front of your, yes, no, did we?
Maybe.
Yeah, it's.
Okay.
I don't know.
But I'm gonna take.
Oh, there it is. I found it.
It sounds like you were saying that, Malcolm, and then we think.
And also the elementary teacher job.
And the
description.
You want that one?
And the
Is
elementary
there.
teacher job description.
So it's in the front, front thing. So
Um,
we have both of those here.
I'm really, really grateful for the partnership that the classified union and I had in working out this paraeducator job description. I sent them my drafts and let them know that there was some urgency around it because we needed to post a position and wanted to have a agreed upon job description in place before doing that. And they got back to me with their feedback within 72 hours. We'd reached agreement.
And
So-
who was that with?
Justine and Doug, so.
Okay,
I
that
actually,
just was gonna be my question.
Yeah.
Do we need their approval? And
this is from
we've
them.
got it.
Yep. They, I
So
worked
we don't
out
really have
changes-
to approve the job description,
No,
I don't think. It's
just the
a-
posting,
Pardon?
just the posting of it, but I wanted you to
The
see what
posting.
would be
We
included.
need a vote to post.
We know, I don't.
I
know
don't
if we
think you
or
do,
not.
but I
It'd be
just
a good
wanna
You
make
idea.
just want us to say like, hey, yeah,
Yeah,
go ahead,
we're all
go and
good.
post it,
We,
yeah.
we need to approve hiring.
Because
Right.
Erica is not returning, so, and it's.
Yeah, so it's.
Yeah, as we all,
Okay, the last thing is to approve the increase in the Impress account up to $1,000. Is that correct?
yeah.
Is there a motion
I'll
to
make
do
a
that?
motion.
Second.
Okay. Moved to second. Any further discussion?
Moving on.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anything that we have not approved that we need to approve that we discussed earlier?
The executive session,
I don't think we need one, do we? No, so we don't,
we're not doing the executive session?
huh?
No,
We need to.
no, I don't know.
So the next board meeting will be June 16th, but we need to
Right.
have, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I would say we need to have a budget workshop date.
Yes, we need a budget workshop date. So if you pull out your June calendars, are we looking at something like, we can't do it on the 9th. The 9th is a very important evening.
Day, a good day.
And how soon can we do it? Because when will we hear?
Well, so we may or may not hear, but we do have to move forward with the process. And so the expectation was that there would be information by the end of this week, which gives us a full week to prep something if we do it in the first week of June.
And so the next thing then is that we need to consider that we need to approve Kelly's contract. And we should do that before we, agree on a budget. So we could make this a special meeting of which we reviewed her contract and approved her contract as well as discuss the budget. What do you think of that?
Well, we could actually, we could discuss the contract and then actually approve it during our regular board meeting when we, if we're.
Because when is our public hearing? Isn't that our public hearing? Or is our public hearing July 10th? When is our public hearing?
You have a special meeting, you have to post.
It might.
Yeah, any meeting, workshop or special meeting,
I
yeah.
know, but
Yeah, it has to be a
How far
special,
ahead?
pardon?
How far ahead do you have to post?
Well, a special meeting, I think it's at the most 48 hours, but usually it's just 24.
Well, that's for
June
emergency.
16th,
Yeah.
Yeah, unless it's an emergency, yeah. Where's my budget file? I've got all that. I have it right here. Sure. Special meetings.
so we will be doing our public hearing in July on the 21st. and
Okay, so we have
adopting-
plenty of time then.
And
too.
adopting the budget that.
If we do,
Yeah,
we can discuss the contract and approve at our next meeting. We don't have to do it in a special meeting. Is that going to work, Kelly, with the schedule of?
Well, just think-
I'm all for sooner rather than later, knowing that we get to come back, but.
Oh, yeah, it does, huh?
Didn't like it.
If,
I think mine fell apart last time too.
I guess it just depends on how much time the board wants to discuss it. If we want to try to do that all in one meeting, or if we want to have. Include it as a short. Extra meeting when we meet for the budget, since those have been pretty short anyways.
So, then.
So June 16th is a Monday, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm hoping that we can do something before that in case there are any. Well, for one, if my contract is looking like it's not gonna be what I asked Kristen to budget for, that'll be impactful to the budget. Right?
Okay.
So there would still. Preferably be time to make adjustments with her before.
June 13th, do the Friday before.
Well, I'm having a party that day.
Yeah.
Okay, so the 12th.
No.
We can't do it on the 13th. My house will be full of people.
How about the 12th?
That's up to whenever y'all are available.
The last day of school is the 11th.
Oh, the 12th is perfect.
The
I'm
ninth or-
open anytime.
the ninth or
you're
10th would be
really
better.
nice.
Then
I just
Yeah, I
need to
cannot
do it
on
before
the
August
10th. I
1st.
have a planning commission public hearing on the
The
10th. but I
9th?
could do it, the 9th, we can't do it, that's, well.
Well, that's,
we could
no,
in
that's
the
eighth grade
evening, 'cause
promotion, which is
promotion's
during the day. Yeah, promotions during the day, so the 9th would not interfere with any. It would be after graduation, which I'm sure our board recording secretary would really appreciate.
Really, really appreciate.
And it would not interfere with any scheduled school activities.
Okay, so the 9th it is.
The 9th at 6 PM, we will have a special meeting that will include budget discussions and superintendent contract.
Okay, July 9th.
Okay, that will get advertised. It'll be out probably by next week on the website, I assume.
Yeah, we'll get that agenda together real quick.
Yeah, because
It
it
will have two items.
Great. Great. I think we can do that.
Budget 3.0 and superintendent contract.
So I guess the other question is, do you have any other contracts you might have done by then?
I will have, I should have. Fingers crossed, the last three, classified and then, vice principal contract.
So we could say contracts rather than,
Yeah, well, so,
But I can also I can bring those in the regular meeting.
yeah, so I think like even. Feels like a good practice to approve the contracts in our regular board meetings. I feel like we can discuss the superintendent contract, and if we come up with something like, hey, can you look at this? Or make this small change and then just approve everything during a regular board meeting.
well,
But
if we
like,
do that, then it's just a workshop. We don't have to have a special meeting.
yeah, if we're all in agreement, I think that.
Yeah.
At 6 o'clock? June 9th?
Pardon?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, 6 o'clock.
So we'll just have it as a budget workshop, which will include,
Contract for superintendent, okay, so.
So what'd you say, Bill?
I said
6
June
o'clock.
9th at 6 PM.
Yep, June 9th at 6 PM. I better write that down.
So it's the Monday prior to the 16th.
Board workshop.
yes.
Try to remember.
Okay, anything else? Okay, then let's adjourn.
Thank
By
you.
consensus, everybody agree we're going home?
We're going.
Yeah.
All right.
Time.
And OPP.